Okay. I believe it is 9:30. We will call this May 12th, 2022 West Elgin Council meeting to order at 9:30. First item up is the adoption of the agenda. Recommendation of West Elgin Council hereby adopts the agenda as presented. Mover and seconder. Moved by Rowe and seconded by Tallier. All in favor, and that's carried. First order of business, we have a public meeting under the Drainage Act.
Sorry, disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Disclosure of pecuniary interest. You know, you do that so many times, you just kind of over what we're looking, but it's very important. Any pecuniary interest from council? Seeing none, next item is public meeting under the Drainage Act and recommendation of council proceed into a meeting to consider the engineer's report on the Fleming and Axford municipal drains under section 22 of the drainage, 42 of the drainage, put my glasses back on, 42 of the Drainage Act. Mover and seconder for that recommendation moved by Cameron and seconded by Leatham. All in favor? That is carried.
So just turn your mic on.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. How do I know?
Yes, we'll turn the report over to you.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. Which report are we going to do first? Is it Fleming drain? All right. So today's meeting is the consideration on the Fleming drain. It is an existing drain, section 78 drain. It's located on just down from the municipal offices. It came about as a request from Mr. Florin. There's an existing municipal drain on his property north of Hoskins Line that's in very poor condition. He wants to retile his property and make it more productive. So he needed a new drain. So what we're proposing to do is to construct a new tile drain north of Hoskins Line for about 300 meters to provide his lands a sufficient outlet for tiling. Mr. Downey, who's to the east, also requires some improved drainage so he can do some tiling in his property. And then we're doing some open ditch work downstream. We're deepening the open ditch a little bit downstream to get an outlet for this tile to get a little capacity. And we're also trying to avoid a conflict with the gas line. We discovered there's a 200 millimeter 8-inch gas line in the road, and
don't hit it.
And we don't want to hit it, and we don't want to move it because the estimate was about $200,000 to move it. So it's easier to dig a little bit of ditch on the downstream side. So that's what we're doing.
It was just hit.
I heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Oh,
yeah. So that sort of sums up what we're doing under this report.
Thomas. Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Anything to add to John's report?
No, that's yes, we dilated that gas line and it did become a conflict. So John Michael was able to accommodate not moving it by doing some ditch work there. So that's going to work out quite well.
Okay.
So I've allowed there's 3 participants here, and I do believe at least 1 or 2 of them are here for the Fleming drain. So if any of you guys wish to speak, any of the participants, you just need to unmute yourself and you can speak.
Anybody have any questions for the engineer while we have him in our room, or for our drainage superintendent? Imagine you've had conversations with all of them already, so
Correct,
they're
yes.
pretty well.
But we do have 1 speaker.
Okay.
So go ahead, Alfred. All I see is the name Alfred, sir. If you'd like to speak, you can go ahead. I guess he doesn't. He just unmuted himself, so.
Okay.
I have
right.
Mr. Deeker and somebody named Wayne as well. If either of you wish to speak, you just need to unmute yourself.
I think they might be in the other drain.
Okay.
Yeah, probably right. Okay, so I guess we're safe in assuming that there are no public comments regarding the Fleming drain.
I would assume so at this point, yes.
Okay. We will now go to anybody from council have any concerns regarding the plumbing drain. Okay, seeing none.
You want me to read the recommendation?
Yes.
So the recommendation on the Fleming drain is that West Elgin Council receives the engineer's report on the Fleming municipal drain as prepared by Mr. J.M. Spreet, PNG, and that West Elgin Council authorizes staff to initiate the tender process, if required, for the improvement of the Fleming municipal drain to be considered by council following the Court of Revision, and that West Elgin Council consider the provisional bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the agenda for our first and second reading.
Okay, you've all heard the recommendation, moved by Leatham, seconded by Cameron, all in favor, and that is carried.
So we'll move to the Oxford drain.
Okay, Michael, go to your report on the Oxford drain.
Sure. Thank you, your worship. This is a section 76 report. So essentially, what we're doing is we're doing a new maintenance schedule on the Oxford drain. There were several reports done over the past 40, 50 years in which maybe longer, 60 years in which various portions of the drain were worked on. And there was no real assessment schedule that the drainage superintendent could fairly assess out the work to everybody. There were portions of the 401 that were combined with was Highway 76 upon one time. So it was all an MTO assessment. Obviously that was handed over to the county years ago. There were other land splits that have occurred throughout the years. So the drainage superintendent needs to do maintenance and has done some maintenance and needs to have a proper schedule to assess those out, a fair schedule. So what we're proposing to do is just provide a new maintenance schedule so that Tom can do maintenance in the future and assess the costs out. That's essentially the scope of the works.
Okay, thank you, John Michael. Tom, anything to add?
Nope, that sums it up quite nicely. Like John said, there are several different areas that have been worked on. There's different schedules. The MTO at one time owned Graham Road, and now we can't fairly assess any maintenance. And I had to do some maintenance, and I couldn't fairly assess that to the landowners. And there's been a lot of severances as well that must have fell through the loops and weren't in my thing either. So this will make it fair for everybody involved.
Okay. Madam Clerk, when you call for comments from
So again, we're ready for comments on the Oxford drain. If any of the any of the attendees on the meeting wish to unmute themselves and speak to the Oxford drain, please feel free to do so. I'll make one more call for anyone who wishes to speak. Just use the unmute button and you can speak. Does not appear to be, sir.
Okay, as we have no public comments regarding the Oxford drain, we'll go to any concerns that council has regarding this proposal brought forward this morning. I see none. We have a recommendation, Madam Clerk.
So the recommendation for the Oxford drain is the West Elgin Council receives the engineer's report on the Oxford municipal drain as prepared by Mr. J.M. Spreet, PNG, and that West Elgin Council consider the provisional bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the agenda for a first and second reading.
I will mover and seconder, moved by Rowe and seconded by Tellier, all in favor, and that is also carried.
So we're at the point where we need to close the public meeting. That West Elgin Council hereby closes the public meeting held pursuant to section 42 of the Drainage Act at 9:39 a.m. to reconvene in the regular meeting of council.
Mover and seconder, moved by Rowe, seconded by Leatham, all in favor. That is also carried.
And
You're on your way to Chatham, Ken.
I am. I'll turn this.
Okay, nice seeing you, John Michael. We'll be in touch.
so, sir, we set the public meeting for this at 10 a.m. So if you'd like to move on to adopting the minutes and things like that, we can get through some of that.
A little
basics.
housekeeping, yes.
So we're on number 6 now, the adoption of
All
the
right.
minutes. So that the minutes of the council meeting on April 28th, 2022 be adopted as circulated and printed.
Mover and seconder, moved by Cameron, seconded by Tellier, all in favor. And that is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none.
So Sam is not here yet. We can move on. If you'd like to do my other drainage, the reapportionment of my drain.
What number is that?
So that's number 8.5.
Okay.
So this is a reapportionment of, I believe because Tom's still kind of around, we can do that if you want. It's the reapportionment for us, the Purcell municipal drain. It's part of a severance. We just need to assess both of those the new property into it.
Okay. No real issue for Tom to be present for this?
No, he's gone actually, but there's no real issue.
Okay.
It was a severance done last year and we just need to catch up and
A lot of
That's one of the
housekeeping
conditions.
goes on, isn't there?
yes.
Do you want to read the recommendation, please?
Sure, that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Janet Nethercott Clerk, reapportionment of drainage assessment for the Purcell Drain due to severance of land pursuant to section 65(2) of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, and that West Elgin Council hereby approves the apportionment of the drainage assessment agreement for the Purcell Municipal Drain as part of severance E6821 as presented.
Council have any questions for that? I'll move over and seconder for it then. Moved by Leatham and seconded by Cameron. All in favor? Carried.
Trying to keep us moving along so we're not too far behind here.
We're not behind, we're ahead.
I know. So do you want to deal with the accessible pathways in Miller Park while we're here?
Sure.
Okay. So quick overview of that. I can put the map up if you guys want to see. I mean, it's kind of hand drawn, so it's not perfect, but show that on the screen here. Oops, that's the wrong map. Sorry, I have to pick up the right map here. I know I did. You know what, I might have to just do it in here. I tried to make it look at least so you can kind of see what we were talking about. So basically, we went through a few versions of this with them with where they were interested in doing it. And originally they were hoping to do it off Jesse Street, but that's not possible. It's there's some development possibly coming in some of the area down there, so we can't do that. And in speaking with the accessibility coordinator for the county, it needed to be to meet standards. It needed to be where we had accessible parking spots, which are the ones up here that we created. And so they have gained funds and volunteers to do the work. They are going to asphalt the current pathway here, which completely meets standards. And then they are going to be putting cement from where the trail meets across. We have spoken with operations, like manager of operations and community services, and he's happy with this. He would like to meet them on site, obviously, to go over what's happening. But other than that, we are all happy. The accessibility coordinator is happy. They just need permission. Their workers will have WSIB and insurance. So we just need permission to do the work for them.
I like when everybody's happy. Okay, any questions that you have for Jenny Espy?
Yeah, I just needed clarification with regard to those two paved parking spots on either side of
Yep.
the proposed pathway. So they are wide enough to be accessible parking spots.
They were put in specific to be accessible spots. They just haven't got the signage up yet,
Yeah.
but yeah, they are specific to be accessible spots. Yeah.
No, I think this is an amazing offer from the
Yeah.
Optimists and the youth task team. It's super.
Yeah, it just shows what the community can do when they work together. It's too bad we've still got one more grant out, but a lot of the accessibility grants kind of disappeared a little bit during COVID. They were doing other grants, so
Mhm.
it's great that at least we get this part done.
And I think it was quite integral in the fact that when we went to that meeting with the optimists, a lot of things were cleared up, and since then there has been a great clarity and things have moved along really well. There's I can't say enough about the power of getting people in one room and discussing issues and being able to ask questions. So with that, need a mover and a seconder for the, do you want to read the recommendation, please?
I'll need to read it yet. That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Janet Nethercott Clerk, proposed accessible pathway in Miller Park, and that West Elgin Council hereby grants West Lauren Optimist permission to install the proposed accessible paths paths in Miller Park as presented.
Okay, mover and seconder, moved by Taille, seconded by Rowe, all in favor? And that is carried. And in that notification, should we also include our appreciation and thanks for their continued advocacy on behalf of people in our community?
Yep.
Okay, everybody good with that? All right.
We're moving ahead, so let's keep moving. Do you want to do the Fleming Cemetery?
Let's talk about the Fleming Cemetery.
So there's lots of discussion with that one with Magda and I. So I don't know if you want me to show everyone the pictures.
I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind about the quotes and all the things that have come in on the Fleming Cemetery, there has probably only been about 3 or 4 people that have been there. Magda and I took the opportunity to go, and Angela Bobier has been there from Bacchus Page. Any of these people that have been submitting quotes have not gone and seen firsthand. I think there's a little misunderstanding about the whole project. When you go and look at it firsthand, you will find that it is 30 feet by 24 feet. It's very, very small. Yeah. It's not a huge deal. And so with that, yes, there is some work to be done on it, but I don't think it's near what has been. So go ahead, Magda, you can.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the idea is, so we have been approached by Bacchus Page House. There is an urgency from their side as they would like to have this project completed by June 24th. Yeah. By June 24th. Unfortunately, we are relying on expertise and from the restoration company. So basically our plan is the municipality is supporting this project. So we will be attending the property again on Friday to take the measurements for the new fence. And also for the week of May 23rd, right after the long weekend, Public Works Department will be assisting and helping us with the cleanup. We are trying to steer away from young kids, as initially we thought, we could involve youths of our community to help us with the cleanup, but there is a lot of history in that cemetery, and we're just afraid that historical information, pieces of monuments could be disposed of. So I think at that point we decided to use municipal staff. For the size of the cemetery, all we need is roughly 2 hours to clean up the area, leave monuments in place, and then extra hours to set up the fence and install the fence. But that's right now, just for the cleanup, I think within 2 hours we'll be able to accomplish this task. So that's our plan. As far as restoration, there is one quote that we have received, but I'm not sure how accurate the quote is, as the company was unable to come to site. So the quote was based on pictures. And so we're trying to request another quote, and we're trying to request the companies to come to the site for more, so the quotes are more accurate and we know how much money exactly it's gonna cost us. So that's where we're at with this project.
I think just before I let you in, Bonnie, I think one of the main things, and Richard, you're very familiar with river floods. And I think one of the things that we have to do as it is a cemetery under our umbrella, we have to secure the site because there are cattle and there are deer, and there's nothing more than these animals like to do is to get in a facility like that and scratch on it. So unless we're going to secure the site, first off, there's really not much sense in doing anything else. So I think Magda's on the right move here of getting it secured, and we estimated that it was roughly 100 feet of fence.
Through the chair, it would be the same size as this room.
Oh gosh, it's not that big.
Smaller.
It's
small room.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, it's very, very small. So Bonnie.
Yeah, what have you done with regard to the idea of accessing it for the public? Have we ruled that out and it's just going to be accessible by photographs on that commemoration day?
Yes, well, it's on private property, and I know that Jana is also involved from clerk's point of view, and she's trying to come up with some kind of agreement with the property owners. So she's been working on that. Yeah, it's the location of the cemetery is not accessible to the public. And honestly, if you ask me to go there, there's no way I could find it. It's just in the middle of nowhere.
So my suggestion, obviously we have a budget set. I don't feel we should go over that budget. Yes, it's great that Bacchus Page House has added to that. So we do have a little bit of extra, but even if we secure it and repair one of them, the bigger, like maybe that one right in front of the gate, and then appropriately rest aside the rest in some sort of cairn. That to me would be an appropriate way to meet the budget and still treat it appropriately.
I think there's ample dollars in the budget to do what you're suggesting that we do. And as it is it's very convoluted, the whole thing down there, that the actual property owner that owns the property the cemetery is on, it's not accessible through his property.
Yeah.
We have an access agreement with him, but the culvert's failed. And technically, I think we would have to fix the culvert, and it's way, the Aldertons have agreed to, we've talked to our insurance company. We understand what we have to do. We have to enter into an access agreement with them, cover them for a short period of time, but they don't want an easement on their property for permanent access. They don't mind allowing us back there for the cleanup this year, but they don't want people there all the time.
No.
I don't blame them for that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get to the property from the Alderton property because you have to go through their property to get somebody else's property. Neither property owner is real keen on having it all of a sudden a pilgrimage for people to go to. So I think that because of its history, and I know Angela was going to do some research that she thought that maybe these people were the first European settlers, quite possibly between Toronto and Windsor. So I mean, there's a bit of historic value to it, but I think there still is the respect we have to show to the property owners that they don't want people there because they've got a bull in the pasture. Bulls sometimes have a good attitude. If you're with a group of people, you just have to be able to run faster than anybody else. So, yes, Bonnie.
I just wondered if any of the stones are registered anywhere, or is there any registry of who's buried there?
I think maybe there is, and we'd have to talk to Angela about it because she has more history on it. And I know that Marguerite has done a bit of history regarding the Flemings and their settlement there. So I think there's history out there, but
Like it might be possible, I was thinking to just lay the pieces together on the ground and photograph it before it sort of gets put in an appropriate.
So I know
Collection.
Marguerite did, she has photos of the ones she took out, she wetted them and then took out flour in order to bring out the wording. So she has photos of all the ones she could make out.
Who does?
Marguerite Alderton.
Oh, okay, super,
She has a file about this high of pictures and
great.
research. and-
Does anybody know why the spot?
why the spot?
That was
Why,
the
sir?
401 of the day.
Because they
Right in the middle of nowhere, I mean.
well, that's all there was nowhere.
Okay.
And when they come there, so Angela tells me that they were traveling with Lord Simcoe. Talbot, Colonel Talbot wasn't even Colonel Talbot at that time. He was just traveling with Lord Simcoe, and they were looking for the capital, and so for the Lower Canada. And they come from Port Stanley. They went over to London. They got in the canoes, and they just went up the Thames River. And there's a ditch or a creek that goes up into this property, and that was probably one of the attractions to it, because it was a lot easier getting water out of that creek than it was going down to the river and get it. So Lord Simcoe, who had the magic power to do what he wanted, just said, "You like it? Yeah, you can have it." And so I was to see Chief Stonefish last week one day, and Moraviantown was incorporated in 1792 as a entity. Flemings come in 1796, so they were the first neighbors for Moraviantown. So we're kind of working with two entities to see what inviting them to the ceremony, and Angela's plan is that no one will be going on site. Everything will be done at Bacchus Page House through either pictures or through drone video and whatnot, to be able to show the whole area. Probably better than if you could actually go there. So very, very unique thing that we have here. And so with that budget set and under Magna's leadership and along with her crew there, we'll do what we can do to try to make it better. So we have a recommendation, Madam Clerk?
I was just receiving it for information purposes at this point. So that West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Janet Nethercott, Fleming Cemetery Restoration for information purposes. If you're good with giving direction, staff will move forward using existing budget.
I think that would be appropriate at this time with Magna's comments. I think that she's prepared to do that, and mover and seconder for that. Moved by Leatham, seconded by Cameron. All in favor? Carried. Where are we at?
We're 9:58, sir, so we can go back, get ready for our public meeting.
Okay, I seen Heather was here. So.
Yep.
It is. It writes very nice.
Thank you, Bonnie. I have a pen.
Okay, so would you like me to read the resolution?
Well, we'll say good morning to Heather.
Oh.
Are we at time?
It's 10 a.m., sir.
Okay, please go ahead.
So that council proceed into a public meeting at 10 a.m. pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act in order to hear an application to rezone the property at the corner of Graham and Monroe Streets in West Lorne.
Okay, mover and seconder for that. Moved by Rowe, seconded by Leatham. All in favor? And that is carried.
So now I'm going to read the purpose of the public meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider and hear comments on a proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw for lands legally described as part of lots 17 and 18, concession 8 being parts 3, 6, 7, and 9 unregistered plan 11R 9329 and located on the northwest corner of Graham and Monroe Streets, to rezone a portion of the lands 0.32 hectares in an area with a frontage of 24.46 meters along Graham Road from open space OS to Village Core Special Use Regulation 3 C1-3 to permit a drive-in restaurant in addition to all other Village Core C1 permitted uses. Council will not make a decision on the application in this public meeting. Based on the recommendation and information received at this public meeting, an amending bylaw will be presented to council in the bylaw portion later in the regular meeting of council. The planner is keeping a public registry, and if any member of the public wishes to be notified in writing of the decision on this application, they can provide their name and mailing address via email to planning@westelgin.net or by calling 519-785-0560, extension 226, no later than 4 p.m. on the day of this public meeting. A person or public body may appeal a decision if they have made an oral or written submission at today's meeting. If you wish to make an oral submission during the public meeting, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, and the clerk will allow you to speak when the call is put out for public comments.
Okay. You've heard the preamble, and I think everybody understands the how we move forward on this. We'll now we'll turn it over to Heather. Do you want to highlight this proposal?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Good morning, Mayor and Council, and good morning to everyone who's joining us on Zoom this morning for this public meeting. I do want to identify that I do see the applicant, Lee Greenwood, as well as the agent, Matthew Campbell, who's also on this Zoom meeting with us as well. As already identified, this property, good morning. As already identified, this property is located at the northwest corner of Graham Street and Monroe Streets. The surrounding land uses are a former railway corridor, Graham Street to the east, and then open space. To the south, downtown, commercial and residential, and to the west, open space. We have the proposed site plan up on the screen here showing the proposed layout of this development. I do want to highlight, as part of the application submission, a planning justification report, site plan, concept plan, functional servicing report, and traffic impact assessment were submitted. Should this application be approved, a site plan approval agreement will be required. The agreement would address parking, access, snow storage, parking on the property, in particular, the stacking and the drive-through lanes, stormwater management, servicing, landscaping, outdoor storage, lighting, noise, and other applicable matters. I do also want to bring to your attention that this property is also subject to a consent that received provisional consent approval from Elgin County Land Division Committee, and the file number is E86/21. Moving on to planning policies, I reviewed the provincial policy statement, and this proposed zoning bylaw amendment appears to be consistent with the provincial policy statement. In terms of the County of Elgin official plan, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the Elgin County official plan. Moving on to the West Elgin official plan, the property is located within the downtown core of the village of West Lorne, as showed on Schedule D of the official plan. The downtown core permits a wide range of commercial uses, including retail stores, restaurants, specialty shops, businesses, financial institutions, and professional offices, as well as secondary uses. This proposed development provides an opportunity for infilling in a vacant area of the core. Connectivity to the downtown and pedestrian focus have been identified and intend to be strengthened through the site plan approval process. Therefore, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application conforms to the municipality of West Elgin official plan. Moving on to the zoning bylaw. What's before us this morning is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would rezone a portion of the lands from open space to Village Core Special Use Regulation 3 to permit a drive-in restaurant, in addition to all other Village Core C1 permitted uses. I do want to note that this proposal does meet all other C1 zone regulations and that the balance of this property would remain zoned open space and public utility. The application was circulated to all the applicable commenting agencies and neighboring property owners within 120 meters of the lands on April 21st, 21 days prior to the public meeting. As well, this application and the supporting documents were also added to the municipality's website for the public and for agency review. Municipal department comments. The zoning bylaw amendment application was circulated to the development application review team for comment, and no concerns were identified at this time. And I do want to note that there was extensive pre-consultation before this application was submitted, and that consultation occurred between municipal staff as well as applicable public agencies and the County of Elgin engineer. And there was comments that came out during that point that have been helped to further refine this application as well as incorporated into the supporting reports and studies. Agency comments, the application was circulated to the public agencies. I received 2 comments, one being from Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. The area where the zoning bylaw amendment would apply is outside of the provincially significant wetland, which affects a portion of this property, but not the land subject to the rezoning. Therefore, a permit would not be required from Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. As well as I received a comment from Southwest Public Health. Public Health has no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment as submitted. In terms of public comments, at the time of submission of this report, I did receive written comments from the public. The comments, there was a letter that was submitted. It's included as Appendix 2 to this report. As well as there's an additional addendum to that letter that has been submitted. And the letters were received from Sean Dowling and Diane Dowling, who reside at 172 Monroe Street, directly across the road from the subject lands. In their first letter that they submitted, they identify the following concerns. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment does not conform to the West Elgin official plan policies. They are of the opinion that the location of the subject lands at the northerly limit of the downtown core land use designation cannot be considered as physically separated from the existing built form of the core by Monroe Street, and they feel it's not an appropriate location. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will not permit an appropriate use within the downtown core, and that the downtown core is not suited to support the proposed use because it will create an enormous conflict with the existing residential uses on Monroe Street due to its creation of excessive noise and vehicle exhaust emissions. To further support their concerns, in their letter, they referenced several policies in the official plan, that being policies 5.3.4, pedestrian and commercial focus, 5.3.5, residential uses, 5.3, downtown core, 5.6.6, land ownership, 5.3.7, zoning, 5.4, commercial from the official plan. In response to their first letter, the downtown core is to have a pedestrian and commercial focus, while the establishment of a drive-in or drive-through facilities and similar changes shall be discouraged. It says that in our official plan. It says discouraged. It does not say prohibited. The subject lands are located in the fringe of the downtown core designation beside the residential designation, which in my opinion is, I view it as an area of transition. The proposed restaurant will provide pedestrian connectivity with Graham and Monroe streets. And I do want to also comment as well, we have also received comments from our municipal engineer on all of the reports and studies that have been submitted. Those comments have been shared with the developer, or sorry, the applicant and the agent. And that is some of the comments I've already received from our engineers. They're looking for strengthening of pedestrian and cycling movements along Monroe Street, and looking to further improve and refine the connectivity for pedestrian access to this property. Again, these have already been identified as points that will be required to be further strengthened as through the site plan approval process. I do want to note that the subject lands have for a long period of time been used for passive recreation open space uses and have been held in private ownership. Though the lands are zoned to open space, they are designated downtown core, which permits a larger variety of uses. Just because lands are used for open space and held in private ownership, at times there can be the potential for a change of use. Compact land uses are to be encouraged and strengthened while encouraging redevelopment, infilling, and conversion of existing non-commercial uses to commercial uses. New buildings and improvements and additions to existing buildings shall be designed in a manner to enhance and complement the core's heritage character and compact nature through the use of compatible building materials and features and facade heights and building setbacks consistent with the historic development of the core. This proposed zoning bylaw amendment represents infilling of a vacant parcel in a developed area. The site plan approval agreement will be required should the zoning bylaw amendment be approved, which will assist in providing compatibility with adjacent land uses. Concerns pertaining to noise can be addressed through the site plan approval agreement and can be lessened through fencing, buffering, either naturalized or through man-made materials such as a wooden privacy fence. Madam Clerk, would you like me to read out the addendum that was submitted by the Dowlings?
Please.
Thank you. This addendum was submitted after my council report was submitted, so therefore for council and for those who are a part of this call, I will read out the letter. This says addendum to prior letter submitted on May 1st, 2022 to be read in conjunction with May 1st letter regarding D1405-2022 zoning bylaw amendment corner of Graham and Monroe Streets from Sean Dowling and Diane Dowling. This letter is meant to convey the results of further research that we have conducted since our last letter to you dated May 1st, 2022. It will build on a few of the focus points in our last letter regarding the zoning bylaw amendment, regarding the zoning bylaw and official plan. Firstly, we have studied the governmentontario.ca website on official plans, which states the following. Once an official plan is in effect, it guides all of the municipality's planning decisions. It means that the local council and municipal officials must follow the plan. All new services, sewers, or water mains, for example, must conform to the plan. All new bylaws, including zoning bylaws and related bylaws, must conform to the official plan. We have researched the official plan history, and it appears to have been implemented by the zoning bylaw in 2015. We believe that because of the implementation and because the zoning bylaw and official plan are currently consistent on the permitted uses in the downtown core zone, then by approving this zoning bylaw amendment, it would no longer be consistent with the official plan. In other words, the official plan would not be followed by council, which is contrary to what the province legislates. We believe that the applicant would have needed to apply for an official plan amendment and have been granted approval in order for the zoning bylaw to be amended and for the two to remain consistent with one another. We believe that an official plan amendment is requisite for the zoning bylaw amendment as it provides the architecture which is implemented by the zoning bylaw. Secondly, we wanted to
Sorry,
point.
Heather, I just was gonna say, if you have comments on there, is council comfortable with her
Break it
answering
up, yeah.
as we go through? Yes. Do you have responses to these letters? It might make more sense. Yeah.
I've already provided my response already to the first letter. In terms of this second letter, I haven't had a chance to formally in writing put together a response. I feel as though my response to the first letter covers off this addendum letter.
Okay, that's it.
If I may just go back, I'll just kind of wrap this up here. In conclusion, therefore, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment appears to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the County of Elgin official plan, and conforms to the Municipality of West Elgin official plan, and recommends that the request for zoning bylaw amendment be approved, subject to no concerns being raised through any oral and written submissions being received since the writing of this report and at the public meeting. It's important for everyone on this meeting to know that once a council decision is made, notice will be sent to those who have requested a copy and or attended the public meeting or provided written comments, and everyone who has circulated the notice of public meeting. There will be a 20-day appeal period after the notice is sent out. Any appeals received by the municipality of West Elgin will be forwarded to the Ontario Land Tribunal, formerly the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, for a hearing in accordance with the Planning Act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Heather, for that comprehensive report. I believe next on our agenda is the comments from the applicant. I don't know who's going to speak for the applicant.
Good afternoon, Mayor McPhail and Council. My name is Matt Campbell. I'm a senior planner with Zelenka Priamo. We're the authorized agent on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is with us today, Lee Greenwood from Canadian Commercial. So I'd just like to preface that with, we're here to answer any questions that Council or the public may have, and noting that there has been some public concern, and we would be able to answer any of those questions and perhaps satisfy any concerns of the public or Council. I'd first like to thank staff for processing this application. We're in an environment right now where things are taking a lot longer than normal, and we certainly appreciate being able to bring this to Council in a very timely fashion. So thank you very much. I'd like to just to walk Council through very briefly the site layout here and perhaps explain why this particular use is laid out the way it is. So first of all, we have a very awkwardly shaped piece of property. It's at a corner, and county staff advised that there would be no access onto Graham Road for obvious reasons dealing with health and safety and traffic impacts, and we fully recognize that. So when we're looking at the site plan, because there are certain dimensional criteria and space criteria that are required for a drive-through facility, that drive-through facility is best located to the rear of this site. And in order to accommodate the anticipated parking, as per the requirements of the bylaw, that parking is then located to the front. Now, there's again, good reasons for doing this, and all of that is outlined in our justification report. And importantly, one of the items that that we think is an asset to this development is the location of the building, the location of the parking, and location of proposed pedestrian infrastructure along Graham Road. That's going to speak to that pedestrian connection. And you know, when our team was on site looking at the site, it was very evident that this particular use is going to provide that linkage that that Heather mentioned from the residential lands on the north side of the tracks down to the commercial core to the south. So that's a very brief overview. Again, you know, it's very evident that this is a proposed Tim Hortons restaurant, although this could be any number of other similar type restaurants. We're very cognizant of the fact that there have been some concerns raised by the public, and we're very happy to deal with those. We're certainly sensitive to and mindful of the fact that changes in any community can cause some stress and anxiety and discomfort to those that live in the community, and it is certainly not the intent here. We want to do everything that we can to satisfy concerns, make people feel comfortable with the change, and recognize that the communities evolve, and recognize that in some cases, a use that is perceived as a great thing by others may not be perceived as a great thing by some other people. But what we'd like to try and do is bring everyone together, have a discussion about what items may be implemented through the site plan approval process that could alleviate any of these concerns. Again, I think Heather's report is excellent, and we're certainly in favor of the staff recommendation for approval on this. And again, if there's any questions that council or the public have, we can certainly engage into a discussion of that nature. And I would ask Lee, if you have any comments that you would like to make to council, now is our opportunity to do so.
Yeah, well, nice to meet everybody. Thank you for having us today. We have been working on this file for coming up a year, is when we started the pre-consultation process. I would echo Matt's comments that the site plan approval process allows us to work on a number of those comments that residents may have had. We've done similar sites in many communities, and we do find that at the end of the day, they function very well. There is actually a version 2 of the site plan that I thought had submitted at other times that do show some additional landscape feature along Graham Street that might even show a pergola feature of some sort and a pedestrian connection to the lands to the north. So those are the type of things that I think will evolve through the site plan process with your support, and ultimately make this a really successful project. Again, here to answer any questions, share with you experiences in other places, and hope we can work together.
Great. Thanks very much, Lee.
So I'm going to give council the opportunity to ask any specific questions. I gotta go public comments. Okay.
So at this
All right,
point, we're
sure.
on to public comments. I do believe there is one person ready to speak. Mr. Dowling, if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so, yeah, I was just wondering, Heather, if you could actually read the rest of my addendum. So you had started to read it, but then stopped due to a question by one of the people on the council chamber there, and then went straight to conclusions.
So Mr. Dowling, the council did receive your full letter, right? In an email ahead of time. She did, yeah. So, but I don't know if Heather wants to continue reading it or I can, it's up to.
I mean, for the short amount of time it's going to take to read that.
Okay, we can fit, I'll just finish reading it. Secondly, we want to point out that what an extreme change of land use issue this would be to change from open space zoning with grass and trees to special commercial zoning, which require amendments to allow a drive-through, which the official plan states this shall be discouraged, is going from one end of land use spectrum to the other. It's hard to imagine being able to reconcile the decision to put this enterprise in a zone where it clearly doesn't fit. Aside from direct conflict it will have on our home in terms of noise and outdoor order, from outdoor order kiosk speakers and idling traffic, delivery trucks to idling vehicle emissions and light pollution, there are a myriad of other negative impacts on the downtown core as a whole. For instance, what impact will drive-through have on the existing future residents or restaurants in the downtown core which don't have drive-throughs? It seems that the official plan was carefully created through a lot of planning and public consultation and included architecture to protect other similar businesses from the creation of an unlevel or unfair playing field within the downtown core area. It makes sense that we should not give unfair advantages to businesses who want to alter our official plan to serve their own interests when the resulting amendment would be to the detriment of others who are in compliance with the existing official plan. It is simply unfair to any downtown core restaurants, existing or future, who rely on the official plan and zoning bylaw to protect their livelihoods and investments. What will become of our current idling control bylaw? How does one reconcile telling people on one hand, do not idle for more than 5 minutes, while at the same time giving a green light to a zoning bylaw which to allow dual lane drive-through that contains stacked area of 13 idling vehicles? This is an extremely high concentration of idling vehicles, which will clearly create a high concentration of vehicle emissions, noise in a mixed use zone in close proximity to two houses. That contravention of the idling control bylaw leads to the contravention of the current noise bylaw as it contains language related to restriction of prolonged idling. How does Tim Hortons intend to control the migration of audio speaker and vehicle idling noise along with vehicle emissions from its property? I don't see anything in the justification report submitted by the applicant which addresses the impacts these will have on the two residential homes to the south. A great deal of emphasis in this report seems to focus on trying to hide out of the sight lines of the Graham Street area because it doesn't fit in with the requirements of the official plan. It attempts to justify its location by using Monroe Street as a separation of its site from the core. However, this is another inconsistency. How can it be separate from the downtown core, yet still located within the downtown core at the same time? The site will clearly be in the sight lines of us here at 172 Monroe, and we are part of the downtown core. Our house was built in the same era, and is of the same character and architecture as other buildings on Graham Street. How are we any less important than any other members of the downtown core? Why did the justification report not address the impact it would have on us as nearby residents? What about the detrimental impact on our living space and the resulting devaluation of our home investment? Who will compensate us for the resulting damages and loss to our property value as a result? What impact will this have in the current pedestrian-friendly nature of the downtown core? The official plan emphasizes the importance of pedestrian-friendly zone, yet this ZBA seems to move us again in the wrong direction with a focus on vastly increased traffic and large areas for private parking for this business alone. It comes at an unjustified loss of 7 spots of existing public parking along the shoulder of Monroe Street, which are crucial for patrons, merchants, and employees who walk to the businesses in the downtown core. How do people navigate safely throughout this area with such a massive increase in traffic? Why should the existing core area have to give up the existing parking it relies on? What impact have drive-throughs had on other municipalities in Canada? I would encourage you to read and study a study conducted by the University of Alberta titled Adoption and Diffusion of Zoning Bylaws Banning Fast Food Drive-Through Services Across Canadian Municipalities. This study, easily brought up with a Google search, is very comprehensive and informative. It was published in 2018 and lists municipalities which have introduced partial or full bans. The report also cites the reasoning and justification that municipalities use to put the bans in place. The reasoning cited for municipalities across Canada and North America in general included reasons similar to what I brought forward as our own concerns. Conclusion: this ZBA should not be approved. It is contrary to the zoning bylaw and therefore contrary to the official plan, which was implemented by the zoning bylaw in 2015. The justification report does not justify or even address the impact this development will have on the 2 residential houses which are located directly across Monroe Street to the south. I could not find anything in the justification report which just addresses noise concerns or other environmental concerns, light, headlights in the windows, vehicle exhaust emissions. In our opinion, there are still too many unanswered questions regarding safety and traffic concerns, protecting the local economy, i.e. other restaurants, from the impacts of a drive-through, community walkability in the downtown core, maintaining the community character, and many other constraints and criteria of the official plan, which were meant to protect us from the impacts of such developments. The official plan is comprehensive in that it does point out where developments such as this should be located, and the location is in a purely commercial zone outside of the downtown core area. Once again, the excerpt from the official plan is highlighted below. 5.4 commercial. Unlike the downtown core area, areas designated commercial are essentially commercial as opposed to mixed use in character. Development in space extensive with buildings well set back from the street and property lines, with lands reserved for on-site parking and outside storage. Pedestrian amenities are limited. The designation includes existing commercial development as well as lands considered to be suitable to accommodate future commercial development unsuitable to the downtown core. Thank you for taking our submission into consideration. Sincerely, Sean and Diane Dowling. You can go ahead now, Mr. Dowling.
Yeah, so that pretty much summarized most of the questions we have. I just wanted to also say too, I know Heather mentioned that the wording said drive-throughs shall be discouraged, not prohibited, but the word shall is key too. It doesn't say should be discouraged, it says shall, which we researched as a mandatory word, meaning it must be discouraged. So to me, that means not approving this, because clearly, you know, it's a great development if it's in the right zone. Obviously, it provides jobs and that. And I love Tim Hortons. I go to Tim Hortons all the time, but it's not in the right zone. This is not a good fit. It needs to be in a purely commercial zone, which was the paragraph just read. It's part of our official plan. I can give you an example of exactly where something like this is located. It is in Tillsonburg. I'm in Tillsonburg quite a bit. There's one just on the north end of Tillsonburg when you're coming down Highway 19 into Tillsonburg. And it's really similar to this. It's a dual lane drive-through. It's always busy, always stacked with vehicles. And I go in there for coffee all the time, but it's great. I mean, it's surrounded by Burger King. You got a Shell gas station, you got a plumbing warehouse, ITF Foods, a Remax office. There's no houses there. There's nobody to bother. So, you know, the idling, the fumes and stuff there, no worries, right? It's in the proper zone. Tillsonburg's very protective of their downtown core. You know, down there, it's got what we want. It's got a thriving, vibrant community full of offices, retail space, all the things that belong in a vibrant downtown core. So again, this just isn't the right site for this. And there's been, you know, we're really disappointed. There was really nothing said about us in the justification report. It was just one sentence, I think, said there are 2 residential houses to the south. But that was it. And we're part of the core. Our house was built about 150 years ago. So it's probably one of the oldest houses in West Lorne. Fits in with the Victorian architecture of the downtown. You know, so I don't see house, their justification report, they're seeing themselves as separate from Graham Street by Monroe Street. That's just it's misleading because Monroe Street itself is part of the core, and we're part of the core. They're part of the core. They're not a transition to the core. They're actually inside the core. And again, I just think to find a spot outside of the core, perfect. That'd be great. But otherwise, it's going to be a complete disaster. It's going to, you know, hurt us, obviously, devalue our property. We're not going to be able to live there with that kind of noise and emissions and vehicles idling. And, you know, it's beautiful there right now. You wake up in the morning, you hear birds singing outside. There's tons of trees out there in green space. A lot of people pull in there to walk just to the downtown amenities. It's very important civic parking along there. We've been there 25 years. We've witnessed it, you know, and that's great. It doesn't bother us at all. A car pulls in there, shuts its engine off. They walk down, they grab a coffee or whatever at one of the downtown restaurants. And again, that's what we're supposed to be all about. That's what our plan is about, is promoting pedestrian use downtown, interconnecting people, getting people together. It's a place for people, not drive-throughs and cars, and you know. So, you know, I don't know what else to say other than it's hard to put into words just how large of a negative impact I think this is going to be. I think basically you're going to have to rewrite the official plan because it's really turning everything on its head. You know, I think the official plan that was written was pretty well put together, pretty comprehensive. It said exactly where this should go, and it specifies that where it shouldn't go. So yeah, other than that, I just don't see how it's going to work. It's so close to our bedroom windows.
Okay.
I'll turn it back to you.
Do we have any other from the public that wish to weigh in on this?
There are other people on the meeting. Does anyone else wish to make a comment? If you do, please use the raise your hand function. It appears there is no other public on the meeting that wishes to comment. So we're at the point where either Heather, if you would like to address, or the applicants can address Mr. Dowling's comments, you are free to do so.
Any comments from our guests or staff?
Thanks, Mayor McPhail. There are a couple of comments that we can address there, and certainly, again, we're sensitive to Mr. Dowling's concerns. And you know, that was why one of the items that we mentioned is that this application and the development of these lands is going to be subject to a further application, and that's the site plan approval application. And through that process, we can identify any sort of mitigative measures such as fencing, landscaping, other forms of screening that could be implemented in order to increase that that compatibility. We're certainly mindful of items such as headlights going into or off property, and we can certainly control that through landscaping or fencing. That's not an issue whatsoever. In terms of conformity to the official plan, I think we've laid out our argument fairly concisely in our justification report, and we're satisfied that this proposal does in fact conform to the downtown core policies. I think that's in line with the staff report as well. Just a couple of notes on there. There was the comment regarding the public parking. Now, through our review of both the survey, the site plan, and discussions with municipal staff, it's understood that parking is actually in part on private property. And so that, in fact, is, I'm not sure how that is relatable to the current landowner. But if this property were to be developed, that is actually private land, and wouldn't be public parking. It's currently not public land right now. There is, what I understand, public parking on the other side of Graham Road. That and again, when we were on site, there was ample parking available for anyone who wanted to come downtown. The notion of a Tim Hortons in a downtown environment The example was made of Tilsonburg, which the Tim Hortons is outside of the downtown environment. There's lots of examples of this particular operator being a Tim Hortons within a downtown environment. And I can share an example of Tim Hortons on the west end of Talbot Street in St. Thomas. A very similar arrangement. That particular site abuts single detached dwellings as well. And one of the things that if you go to that site, that restaurant serves as a gathering place for the community. So in that case, the city of St. Thomas has undertaken a significant streetscape improvement. They're moving from the west end of Talbot Street, which is the downtown, and moving towards the east and completely redoing streets. And as part of that, creating places for public to gather. There's some like cool railway themed benches, those kinds of things. And that's what we envision for West Lorne as well. It's commonly understood that this type of restaurant serves as a community gathering space, and the proposed location here, again, right on the periphery of downtown, again, serving as that transition space, has the opportunity to really create this community gathering space. We have the former railway lands immediately to the north, lots of opportunity for pedestrian connections, and the location along Graham Street, that's another location where we can really enhance some pedestrian connections there. Again, happy to answer any other questions that council may have.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to, what's that?
Mr. Greenwood had it.
Oh, okay. Yes, Mr. Greenwood.
Yeah, I would, address Mr. Dowling too. We're completely sensitive to his concerns. He lives in a downtown area, so it's expected that, mixes of uses happen. We think that a lot of the things he's brought up are site plan issues, and they're things that you'll have our full participation to deal with and deal with appropriately. If he has any further, questions he wants to ask us directly, we're always open to talking about them.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to comments from council now. Yes, Deputy Mayor Leatham.
Yeah, I did speak to Sean Dowling in length on the telephone, and which prompted me really to, after our conversation, to ring some people in West Lorne just to get their feel on the matter. I rung 3 people in actual fact. And that one comment was putting West Lorne on the map. Another one, at last something for West Lorne. And another one said it will be bringing more people in to West Lorne. And I would like to say to Mr. Dowling that, the electric cars coming. So the pollution is not going to be the same. Gas cars are going to get numbered and electric cars are going to take over. So I don't see that pollution one as a problem. But that's what I found in the little bit of research I did. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Cameron.
Good morning. So through the chair, I have also spoken to Sean, and West Lorne is currently my ward. So I have spoken to a number of businesses in the community and as well as many residents. And I received similar feedback that Deputy Mayor Leatham did. So knowing that Tim Hortons has a mission statement that, your cooperation and stewardship is mentioned in that, you seem today have answered most of my question in regards to noise calming and dealing with light, which was some of the questions that I had. I liked the fact that you were receptive to trying perhaps adjusting to more of a community gathering point with the streetscape, perhaps changes at the front. So because, we often have youth that gather in front of a local variety store, and maybe perhaps we can change the location of where they gather if you set a seating area for them to bring them more outside of that area and down to your location. So thank you for answering all the questions today.
I have a couple of questions. I know I see you, Mr. Greenwood is gone, but is it your plan? And I think Deputy Mayor Lethem brought up a very good point. Is it your plan, looking at the crystal ball and the tea leaves of the future, whether it's necessary now or in the future, will you be considering putting in infrastructure that will be compatible with charging stations? Certainly that is something that I think is from a marketing perspective, if you have the capacity to be able to have a charging station in an area that is, halfway between London, Windsor, where the potential of someone needing a little boost to get them down the road a little farther, I think would be a great marketing tool, both for McDonald's and for this municipality, of being able to bring people in off the big road 401, that they know they can come here, get a good coffee and a little boost in their car too. So I don't know if that's part and parcel of your plan or not.
What we've done actually recently is add conduits in the parking lots so that we can accommodate that in the future. So I'm building a store for Tim Hortons in a municipality or a town called Sterling, Ontario, which is about an hour north of Belleville. That project is a little further ahead than this one, and we have added 2 conduits in the parking lot so that when a charging partner is chosen by Tim Hortons, that it's pretty plug and play. We don't have to rip up the parking lot. We don't have to go get a secondary source of electrical. They take it back to their electrical room, so it could be a pretty painless install. So they are thinking that way. It wouldn't likely be in the plan right off the bat, but when Tim's comes up with a partner, it will be installed in the future.
Okay. The other question, I mean, if council is in agreement with the application, is there any, and I think that your planner maybe alluded to it a little bit, as your vehicle access is not off of Graham Road, are people going to be through a formal entranceway off of Graham Road into your property, going to be able to access Tim Hortons off of Graham Road? Are they going to have to go down and walk down to Monroe Street and then walk back? Because they're not going to do that. They're going to take the shortest route.
Right. Thanks for the question, Mayor McPhail. Yes, we are proposing a walkway. So there's actually 3 pedestrian ways, or sorry, 3 ways a pedestrian could get to the site. One, there's actually 2 paths off of Monroe. So there's the existing informal trail that follows along the former railway line. There's that avenue that could access to the north end of the site. There's a direct pedestrian access from Monroe Street. And then there's opportunities to have someone go, a direct pedestrian access from Graham Road, and then opportunities for an individual to come down Monroe Street and then up to the south end of the site. So 3 different ways a pedestrian could access the restaurant.
Again, another issue that looking down the road along with the electric cars, which I appreciate your answer back. Certainly, I think that's timely at this point in time. But if we get into a situation that Graham Road being a county road, if we're in a situation that we're then petitioned by the residents of West Lorne that some type of crossing needs to be across Graham Road, that expense will all come back to the municipality, as the county has criteria for that. Is there any thought been given to, if we ever get to that point, that there could be some type of financial assistance from the developer in putting in the appropriate crosswalk across Graham Road?
So Mayor McPhail, that's when we're talking about financial contributions to hypothetical situations in the future, that's something I'm pretty reluctant to comment on. Although we didn't get any commentary from either the municipality nor the county in regards to any sort of pedestrian crossing. So I'm sure we can provide a response to that in the future. And, I'll certainly defer to Lee's comments on that, but I think it would be premature for us to provide any sort of meaningful comment on that question right now.
Yeah, no, I would concur. I mean, we sort of need to know the extent of the civil infrastructure, how Monroe would function and what we need to do sort of before making comment on that, and what the extent of a crosswalk would look like. To be frank, we haven't budgeted off-site, poles and electrical items. Those would be quite cost prohibitive, but, we're open to those discussions if we move into the site plan phase.
The only reason I bring this up is the fact that just on the east side is a fairly significant seniors housing facility. There's also plans for it to be expanded at some point in time. So certainly all that I'm thinking about is your customer base that would probably use your facility on a regular basis. And I think that any business, the more where they can work to make their business accessible to their patrons is something that is probably something that they're concerned about. So I'm just putting my down the road hat on. I don't expect any answer from anyone at this point in time, but certainly it's just something that we all need to keep in the back of our mind.
Sir, that is also something that can be dealt with under the local improvement regulations. So, and that also follows similar to drainage, where it's based on frontage and somewhat of a benefit. So that's all, like you said, down the road, but those can all be dealt with at a later date. Now
getting just one last question that I have, getting back to Mr. Dowling, when we get to the site plan stage, if this is zoning bylaw is supported by council, is there an avenue for Mr. Dowling to be consulted over the site plan, as he is I guess the closest neighbor to the facility? And I don't know if did you work with the Tim Hortons that was put in Glencoe? Kind of much the same type of store that's put in a quasi residential area. And I know that
I'm familiar with the store. I'm actually familiar with the developer who built it. So we would take a lot of the same cues, but each site does stand on its own. A lot can be done with fencing and with buffering. We'd be happy to consult with Mr. Dowling. Sometimes we find that those kind of meetings do go a long way to alleviate a huge number of those concerns. So I think it's worthwhile. I don't believe the site plan is a public process at that point, but we're happy to, share plans and make sure that we're, being good corporate citizens.
Well, I think that's, I always believe communication is a wonderful thing. And I didn't know what the mechanics were of a site plan. And I know that Heather is on the ground here, and certainly between the two planners, if there's an opportunity for a consultation, at least to be had to make sure that all the bases are covered, I think that would go a long ways to alleviate a lot of the concerns. I see a hand up. Well, is that terrific?
Okay. If I may I can speak to site plans. So under the Planning Act, site plan is not a public process, so there's no public meeting. However, and also too, it's important to note that site plan is not appealable by the public. It's only appealable if, for instance, the municipality and the owner are not in agreement. There are changes being made to site plan approval as of July 1st. I'll be bringing a report to you in June that it's one of many things of changes in legislation to the Planning Act. If it is council's desire to involve the public, I would request for that to be included as part of the resolution, and to be specific if it's just specific public members such as the Dowlings, or if you're wanting this to be a more public, larger public event, I would request that staff have that specific information and that it be included in the resolution.
Well, I don't know how far it goes. I mean, the only avenue that Mr. Dowling has now in input to site plan is through his elected representatives, which is certainly one avenue. But I think at your level, Heather, you know, it sounds like the applicant is certainly prepared to do what's necessary to try to alleviate a lot of the concerns that have been brought forward this morning. I think they're on record now, and I think that that will be part and parcel of the preparing of the site plan to try to take care of a lot of those issues. But certainly, I guess that how we work forward through this, you know, keeping the lines of communication open with certainly with Mr. Dowling. He seems to be the one that's most concerned about that. I don't think that we need to go to a general public consultation on the site plan, but you know, good communication make good neighbors, and if we can strive to do the best that we can to accommodate not only the applicant but the municipality and the concerned resident, I think will bode well for a good project in the end.
So the only way you can, she can go to him, but he has no recourse
Yes.
on.
No, I
this?
understand
Okay.
that.
I was gonna say, unless you want to put it in the
No,
resolution.
I don't
Okay.
think so. I think I just want everybody to have an understanding here to
So show him the site plan.
keep the lines of communication open, and I think we can move forward if this is accepted by council.
Because I was gonna say, there is the opportunity, and some communities do require, put a holding provision on something to require that. I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying, yeah.
Bonnie?
Teresa was up first.
Oh, Teresa? Okay, sorry.
No problem. Through the chair. Thank you for coming today and proposing this. I've spoken to a few people in my ward, which is Ward 1, which is west of this. And they really felt that with the arena being just down the road, this was something very much needed for when we have our tournaments and ice skating carnivals and such. And also to bring people to the core of the businesses. We have 2 home hardwares in the area, and maybe people would gravitate more towards this one instead of one that's outside of the area, gravitate more towards the hairdressers and such, if they can grab a coffee, go do their errands, go to the doctors, go, you know, do different things in the core. Also wanted to make a point about the Glencoe site and Mr. Dowling, that there's a old century home kitty corner to that Tim Hortons location, big stone house there. And there's another house right there in that area. And then homes at the back where they have the drive-through. And I'm not aware of any problems there, but maybe I'm just not aware of them. But just to let you know that the setup there is much the same as what this one looks like. Also, to Mr. Greenwood, I just know that the community spirit of Tim Hortons, I've volunteered with soccer for many years in the past, and you call them up, ask for anything, and they follow up with even more. Medals for the kids, uniforms galore, beautiful, everything, and little certificates for them, anything. So the community spirit that Tim Horton brings in to a small town, any town, is something we need to think about as well. They do really have a community connection usually when they come into a town. My last point is a question for Heather. So the applications that went out for the proposed amendment, they went out to businesses as well in the area within that radius?
No, so the application was only circulated to all property owners within 120 meters. I will note, however, there was 125 property owners listed on the circulation. So it covers most, like I'd say at least half of West Lorne. It would definitely, within 120 meters from that property, would definitely cover all the businesses in the downtown.
It is under the Planning Act too, it is the
Okay, thank
owner's
you.
responsibility to notify the tenants.
Absolutely. And also too, there was a sign posted on the property, and I did check twice during this public meeting process, and the sign was still on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Bonnie?
Okay. I have reviewed Mr. Dowling's material in detail and gone to the website for the study. I appreciate the time that he and his wife have put into this public meeting. there are a lot of positives. Many of them have been addressed here today. Some that haven't been addressed are increasing our tax base, which always helps the rest of the citizens, increasing our water and sewage use, which also has a benefit for the other users. Employment certainly for some of the people in the community would be another bonus. I do believe it will attract visitors to our downtown area, and the corporate citizenship is certainly one of those positives. The discussion this morning really has reaffirmed for me that the site plan agreement is capable of addressing most of Mr. and Mrs. Dowling's concerns. So I look forward to that next step. There's a couple of things I just want to comment on. One is the wording in our official plan, and it is strong wording. I'm not convinced, and it's going to take a better mind than mine to arrive at the decision with regard to the intent of shall discourage. And, from my perspective on, government documents that I have reviewed, shall is a very strong term. And so I guess it remains to be seen through this process. Heather, I understand your interpretation of it, and Mr. Dowling, I understand yours as well. So that, I guess, we'll have to accept our experts at the table today and see where that goes. The only other minor, maybe not minor, thing that occurred to me was in the traffic control discussion. I don't recall it, the issue of the use of the EDR coming up. So I'm imagining what the downtown could look like on a Saturday morning when everybody's heading for their coffee and the EDR is in place and traffic is streaming through West Lorne and people are trying to turn left onto Monroe Street to get into the drive-through. Just wondered if that had been taken into consideration in the traffic study.
Through the mayor, I can answer that latter question. No, I don't believe that particular scenario was taken into account in the traffic study. The traffic study was really intended to provide information on normal day-to-day traffic scenarios. I'm not 100% familiar with the municipality's experience with the EDR, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to the emergency detour route. That would be if the portion of Highway 401 was closed.
Yes.
I think that's an unusual circumstance that wasn't specifically analyzed in the report.
Just to comment that it does happen fairly frequently.
Thanks. We'll take that back and give that some thought. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council regarding this? I think we're at the point now. I think we've had a good discussion on all sides of this event or this proposal this morning, and we are now at the point of 5.2, a recommendation, Madam Clerk.
Certainly. The West Elgin Council approved the rezoning of part lots 17 and 18, concession 8 being parts 3, 6, 7, and 9 on registered plan 11R 9329 from open space OS to village core special use regulation 3 C1-3 to permit a drive-in restaurant in addition to all other village core C1 permitted uses in accordance with the draft bylaw contained within Appendix 3 of the report, and further that West Elgin Council consider the bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the May 12th, 2022 council agenda.
Okay, you've all heard the resolution. Over and seconder, please. Leatham and Rowe. Any more discussion? Those in favor? That has been carried. Thank you much, everyone.
Sir, we're at the close of the public meeting. So that West Elgin Council hereby adjourn the public meeting held pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act at 10:59 a.m. in order to reconvene in the regular meeting of council.
Over in seconder, please. Moved by Talia, seconded by Cameron, all in favor. And that is carried. Okay,
Apparently my Google lady.
how are we doing here?
So, sir, we are now at Aqua reports.
Okay, is everybody comfortable or do you need a little break?
Oh, sorry.
I see heads nodding up and down. So Sam, keep the pot boiling. We'll be right back to you. In fact, you can stay.
Okie dokie. Q1 water. So we had no compliance issues. We did have an inspection on February 11th. And a rating of 100% was received, which is always good, but also our standard on distribution systems. So it's always good though to get it and get it done and over with and receive that 100% rating. As far as samples go, we did a live tap on number 3, just an eagle. We had a service leak on Fletcher's Lane and Center Street that was fixed relatively quick. We did a fire flow test over by the bus depot in West Lorne for what I understand is potential development. And then we did a repair beside the gas station on John Street in West Lorne. Just a few alarms, a high chlorine and a high pH. And no community complaints. So nice, quiet Q1 on the water side.
Okay, any questions for? All right, we have a resolution, Madam Clerk.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the West Elgin Distribution System first quarter operations report from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Moved by Talia, seconded by Cameron, all in favor. That is carried.
Sorry, Sam. So now we're on the annual report for West Lorne, and then we'll move to West Lorne's Q1 operations.
Okay. So the annual report is really just speaks mostly to what I speak with you folks once a quarter. A couple of things I will point out that I do like to point out during these annual reports is the capacity of West Lorne sewage plants is at 63% of the design capacity, which seems high, but if you look at the average flows, you can see June and July were extremely high, and even December a little bit. As you recall, it was an extremely wet year. Of course, with climate change and all that stuff, that maybe become more frequent, but as far as raw sewage goes, don't be too concerned at this point of 63%. I believe that it's already coming down in 2022. So compliance, we had no compliance issues at the West Lorne sewage plant this year. And then I also like to come down to the very bottom where it says overall the West Lorne wastewater treatment plant provided effective treatment in 2021 with no exceedances within the effluent limits.
Any questions for Sammy? Seeing none, resolution, please.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the 2021 annual report for the West Lorne wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Over in seconder, moved by Rose, seconded by Latham, all in favor. Carried.
So we're on the Q1, Sam.
Okay, Q1 West Lorne here. Sorry. Again, no compliance issues reported this quarter, no inspections. As you can see, average daily raw flow is about the same right now, but we haven't factored in June and July yet. So that I do anticipate that to come down. Other lab results have been good, below limits and objectives. As far as general maintenance goes, we just do our regular maintenance. Change some oils. We did have to replace a pinch valve and a what do we call it? A pinch valve and an actuator. Spoke with his municipal staff, and we've got that approved under emergency maintenance. So that is ongoing, but plant's running well. no other major issues to report. Did have, we've greatly reduced our communication fails at those call outs, but we've had, as you see here, about one every month. When we, part of the capital for 2022 is to get fiber optic down to that plant. Once that's in there, we'll be able to perform regular updates to programs, and that, from what I'm told, will completely eliminate these gateway communication alarms. And yeah, it's pretty smooth quarter on the sewage side in West Lorne as well.
Bonnie.
Just one question through the chair. To clarify, the reason for the improper alum dosage in January and February, was that because of increased runoff?
Yeah, it's hard to anticipate, infiltration, and we can keep an eye on the weather, but if it happens on the weekend, it's not a flow paced alum. We have to manually adjust that. So yeah, it would be directly attributed to the influx of flow.
Yeah, thanks.
Any questions? I've just got one, Sam. Our requirements on different chemicals to make our systems work, availability, and certainly is our price just continually rising?
Yeah, so big question. Availability with amongst everything these in these times is tough, but Aqua has a dedicated group. It's our procurement group actually that guarantees our supply. I've not run into any issues getting alum out to that plant or any of my plants really. It's kind of a guarantee through our vendor of records. So not to toot Aqua's horn, but that's one of the great things about Aqua is we're able to have that kind of pull in the province with the amount of alum that's purchased by Aqua throughout the province. As far as pricing goes, they don't guarantee their pricing beyond a year. So year to year, we're seeing increases. My alum budget is fine so far. We're not blowing it out of the water. It's actually maybe sometimes not a bad thing. It helps you optimize your process maybe a little tighter. Not that we aren't trying to do that anyways, but it really puts the emphasis on optimizing your chemical use. So at this point, it is not an issue on the chemical side of things for pricing. But obviously something that is increasing year to year. And we do have clauses in our contracts, and I will say it goes both ways. If we were to ever see a decrease, the decrease would be passed on to the municipality. But it goes both ways as well. If there's a large increase, then you might get an unpleasant call from me that you might not want. But at this point, we're okay.
Decreases are a lot like unicorns. They're out there, but nobody ever sees them.
Yeah. Like I said, they're alum is procured at a corporate level. So, the bulk that Aqua buys, you may see that unicorn someday, but I don't know. We'll see.
We need a mover and seconder, Madam Clerk.
We do. That West Elgin Council hereby receives the first quarter operations report for the West Lorne wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Mover and seconder, please. Rowe and Cameron, all in favor. Carried.
Well, now we're on Rodney's annual report. Sam?
Okay, thank you. So again, let's focus on a few things. The rated capacity in 2021 was at 73%. Again, June and July, extreme weather, as we know, causing that number to skyrocket from the previous year. I think that's, again, it's an extreme. I don't think it's going to come down, but I think there's a middle ground there that we can be more comfortable at. 73% is getting a little high, but I think we'll see that's kind of an extreme, like I said, and we'll come down to more of a medium comfortable level on that. We did have a non-compliance on the administrative side for alkalinity. That's been since rectified. As far as the objectives, nothing was exceeded in 2021 on the effluent objectives. So again, down to the bottom part, overall, the Rodney wastewater treatment plant provided effective treatment in 2021 with no non-compliances and very few objectives exceedances. Capital improvements to the system will ensure continued success in the operation of the plant and improve the effluent quality.
Questions for Sam? Bonnie?
Yeah, I did note that the capital improvements would help with the quality of the effluent. Will it help with our capacity as well?
No, it will not improve the capacity. These are like for like upgrades. Capacity improvements was not the point of the funding. It was to improve what was there.
I guess I'm thinking about the fact that if we're at 75% capacity at times, that doesn't leave a lot of space for development of any kind that we might want to promote there.
Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at in the future. Now, probably with the state of the plant, if we were at 95%, the effluent quality probably, that the real life capacity of that plant probably isn't what it is, what it's supposed to be, but the renovations and the upgrades will get it to the real capacity of the plant. Yeah, if there's an opportunity for large developments, that I would definitely suggest that and I'm assuming it would be anyways, is that sewage capacity is definitely looked at.
So is this something that we're not going to be going down the same trail by putting the necessary improvements into the facility, and then if we get in a position where we have to expand the facility, that we're going to redo that work that we've already done?
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor. I think the money that is allocated right now is necessary regardless of whether the plant needs to expand or not. Expansion typically means just adding a train or doubling everything. But if say that you need to expand the plant, the projects that are planned in this upgrade are necessary regardless of expansion. The work needs to be done, short of tearing the place down and building a new one. I mean, and I doubt that's an option. It's not usually. So the improvements that are planned are necessary regardless of whether the plant needs to expand or not.
Will the work being done on the lagoon allow us to maybe better reflect any large weather event that we have more storage capacity that will offset? We can work on a weather event as we have time to do it.
Absolutely, we have the ability to divert. It's about midstream of the plant, so about halfway through the plant, it's actually where the effluent or the flow meter is. When we get a high level event where we're reaching, there's two capacities. There's like your max flow, and then you have your daily capacity. So if you're reaching that max flow, we get an alarm and we divert the effluent to the lagoon. We try not to do that too much right now, waiting for these improvements to start. But yeah, absolutely. When we have the ability to decant that lagoon, treat higher flows when there's lower flows, and divert high flows to the lagoon so that they can be treated later is definitely a major part of the upgrades. Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, any other questions for Sam? We have a motion, Madam Clerk.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the 2021 annual report for the Rodney wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Mover and seconder, moved by Talia, seconded by Cameron, all in favor? That is carried.
So now on to Q1, Sam.
Perfect, thanks, Jenna. No in Q1, we had no compliance issues, no inspections. As you can see, Rodney's starting to show that average is starting to come down. For flows, again, all our lab results have been great, running smooth. Keep sliding down here. As far as general maintenance goes, we continue to operate the plant, you know, the best we can. Everything is running fine. We are eagerly waiting the upgrades, but at this time, nothing major has happened. Luckily, we've had no alarms, no complaints.
We're routinely monitoring the on Rideout Street there where we've had the blockages. That's kind of on a regular monitoring basis.
Correct. Yeah, just for peace of mind, that is actually a contractual obligation now. We added that in our last negotiation, so it's something that we are monitoring regularly.
Okay, cool. I need a mover and seconder, don't I?
Yes, the West Elgin Council hereby receives the first quarter operations report from the Rodney wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Moved by Talia and Leatham, all in favor? That is carried.
We are done with Sam, sir.
Sammy, we're all done with you, my friend.
Great, thank you, and have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Okay, Madam Clerk, we've
So-
been all over the map. Where are we going now?
Let me just check. Jackie has joined our meeting. She's going to be, hold on, I just got to promote her. So Jackie's just joining us and she will be able to speak to her report.
Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
Good. Everybody pounding the nails straight, are they?
Yes.
All right, that's good. Okay, you have your report that's been sent out. I don't know whether you want to go through it or do we will just entertain any questions that anybody has. Okay, I think everybody's satisfied. They've all read your report. Anything you'd like to add to it? Any concerns that you have out there that you need to bring to council?
Nope, everything's motoring along just fine. Thank you.
Okay. Good. With that, I need a resolution with a mover and seconder.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Jackie Morgan Bunin, CBO, rebuilding permit report for April 2022 for information purposes.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Rowe, seconded by Cameron. All in favor? Carried. Got a lot of things kind of on the horizon that
I'm not aware of anything coming in imminently. I know that it's just plugging away as usual. I know there's stuff on the horizon that might be farther out, but as far as immediately, I'm not aware of anything in particular.
okay. You might have a summer yet.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Jackie.
Thank you. Have a great day.
So we're on to Jeff now, sir.
Jeff. Good morning.
Good morning, your worship and council.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Well, pretty good. I see you've got a number of reports this morning. Our clerk has got us all over the map here.
So we're going to start with his dispatch agreement.
Oh,
report.
yes, yeah, that's very good. So Jeff, anybody know how long we've been with Tillsonburg? We went from
2007, I believe, is when that, I believe that was a switch, yeah, in effect since 2007. And sorry, just to jump in kind of quickly here with the part of the report, we did renew it in 2012. And then there's been quite a bit of turnover change in the chiefs in the county, and there's also a new chief in Tillsonburg, our newer chief. So we kind of collectively realized it had been a while since this agreement had been renewed. So there's really, as a kind of the report outlines, there's really no change overall. There's a slight, we'll probably see a slight decrease based on population in the costing, but outside of that, there's really no change.
Okay, Bonnie?
How'd you know I was gonna put my hand up?
I caught it out of the corner of my eye. I seen you. I'm watching you.
Morning, Jeff. Through
Morning.
the chair. I just wondered how close we came to the seasonal population increases that would need to come into play to that would increase our costs there. I think I talked about doubling, I don't know, with all our campers and so forth, whether that's ever come close or not. Either Jan or you.
And maybe someone else in the room can add it. All I know is based on the agreement, it's based on the census. And I honestly can't speak to how the seasonal change impacts that, but the 2021 census for West Elgin, where is it here? 5,060. So yeah, sorry, I can't really add anything in regards to the seasonal part of it, but it's just based on the census amount.
The seasonal people, I do not believe factor into our census. They don't, because it's individual, that's individual properties. So they factor into our MPAC and voting, but not the census because it's different levels of government, is my understanding.
I just, it gets referred to in this agreement, so that's why I was wondering whether we ever.
It's a confusing because they're all different levels and yeah, it's a mixture.
It's not something that the Tillsonburg Dispatch has ever been concerned about, like, obviously.
No.
No, and it's not addressed in this agreement either, so.
Bressa.
Through the chair, is the 5-year term under term 4 very typical for 5 years? Because you said last time it was renewed 10 years ago, so 2012.
Yes, and I believe, I'd have to double check, but I believe the last one, the intention was for 5 years because we had the 2007 and then 2012, but I just think it got maybe overlooked. So there is, and again, I don't have the specific right in front of me, but there is an out clause. I think it was possibly 6 months notice. So that's always an option too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Is Tillsonburg handling the call for all of Elgin County?
Yes, that is correct. And since 2007, sorry, with the exception of the city of St. Thomas. So the city of St. Thomas provides their own fire dispatch. But outside of that, yes, Tillsonburg is providing the whole county. And they've, I think it talks a little bit on the report about it. They have definitely picked up several other counties and departments since we started with them. So they've gone to 2 full-time dispatchers 24/7 and made some improvements in their operations. So overall, we're quite pleased with the service they provide.
And really, there's no other game in town anyway, is there?
There isn't. Now, there has been some discussion amongst just kind of chiefs meetings that once the NG 911 implementation is complete, that there may be another player or there may be less players. It's hard to see, but I think in the next few years we'll see. Because I know obviously Tillsonburg is upgrading as necessary, but that may affect the players that are available for future consideration.
Now has St. Thomas put a new call center dispatch system in place?
No, not to the best of my knowledge, they have not. I don't believe they started that process. I don't know that for certainty, but so I'm not sure because I know in the city, police dispatches police and fire dispatches fire, but in some other municipalities, I'll use Perth County as an example. They have Owen Sound Police, and Owen Sound Police do the dispatch there for, I believe, all emergency services. So there is some different kind of models out there. And I think we'll see, like I said, we'll see in the next couple of years where who's still providing the service potentially and who won't be.
Yeah, I think that we're probably safe moving forward with this agreement that we have in place. It's worked well in the past, and until something changes, I guess it's the best that we've got on the table. So not a whole lot of thought needs to be put into it. Any other questions? I have, do you need a recommendation, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Jeff MacArthur, Fire Chief, refire dispatch agreement, and that West Elgin Council hereby authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the Tilsonburg Fire Agreement as presented in the bylaw portion of the agenda.
Seconder, moved by Leatham, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? Carried.
We're now on your incident summary, Jeff.
Sure. Thank you. And this is intended to give council kind of an overview of the activity of the department in regards to incidents last year. So I've done, I guess it'll be a 5-year kind of year-by-year comparison. So as you can see, 2021 was very similar to 2019. So it was one of the I guess busier years in the 5-year average. And then it's also always important to note the property saved. So that sometimes often gets overlooked, just generally speaking, but there was 462,000. Of course, that's an estimate, but estimated property serves. And the other comment I'll make is, as council's aware, we switched to the new or the different burn permit process last year. And if you remember last, say March and April, it was grass fire season, and the department was busy in that regard. But once we implemented the burn permits in May, we did overall had very good compliance in the municipality. So we appreciated that from the residents.
Hi, Jeff. Could I ask you just one question on the burn complaint? And it says cancelled, nothing found. So is there some, when the report comes through that there's a fire, shouldn't they know that there's a burn permit or something like that, and so they don't have to go out?
Yeah, and sorry, was that under the burn permit ones or up on the overall breakdown you're looking at?
I'm looking at the May 22. Oh, sorry. Yeah, May. Yeah.
May of 22.
April, sorry. April 22.
Oh, you're looking at the monthly report.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't done the monthly report yet, Richard.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. That's okay.
Okay. Maybe you can answer that after when we get there.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No problem. Yep.
Okay, so estimated property saved, that's quite a bit.
And I tried to break it down for council, just to differentiate the MVCs on the 401. You'll see that obviously if you compare 14 to 4 on other roadways, it shows the frequency, and that fluctuates a little bit year to year, but it shows the frequency of how often the crews are out on the 401.
I think that's something that with this resurfacing of 401 going to be happening through our jurisdiction here, using example, the number of incidents that happen because of that over in Chatham, Kent, I think we're going to be busy responding to people that are just not paying attention, and it's going to probably be a busy summer next little while anyway.
For sure, and we on the Southwold side, we worked through that for a couple summers a couple years ago, and yes, it did. We adjusted some operational considerations, but it did create for a busy summer for calls out there for sure.
Well, that 462,000, that wasn't all foundations, was it?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not.
All right, any other questions on that report from Jeff? If not, read the resolution.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Jeff MacArthur, Fire Chief, for information purposes.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Rowe, seconded by Tellier. All in favor? Carried.
We're on your monthly report now, Jeff.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, you'll find the monthly report in front of you, and as mentioned there, the recruits, the 6 firefighters that are attending the County 1001 course. The end is in sight. They're almost there. So the live fire training has been completed in the last few weeks. That was done in Ingersoll through Elgin County. And then they're either wrapping up or they might have one more night of certification testing to go. So they've been very busy in the last 6 months, but they're almost there. So, and to answer the deputy mayor's question on the cancel nothing found. So I believe quite typically, and I know actually in April that was the case, that the 401 we do get calls, and there was that believe it or not, that snow event in April. But anyways, so the burn complaint, there was 1 or 2 that month, and the other 2 or 3 were canceled, and I know a couple of those were on the 401, which is not uncommon.
All right. I guess it's not a problem of 911 calls coming in from cell phones off the 401 reporting incidents that maybe already have been reported and already been checked out, that we're back out there, guys chasing something that's already been done. Is that an issue where the police are not communicating with dispatch to say that this has been looked at, investigated, and no action required by any other services?
Yeah, there's a couple of factors involved. Part of it is how the 911 call would come in. So if it comes in tiered to, sometimes it comes to fire first, sometimes it comes to police first. So there is, and unfortunately there's, so how police and fire and EMS communicate, or how we communicate to them, is through dispatch, right? So if a call comes in for an MVC, but it gets tiered to police first, police will call fire and request fire to attend. And by no means does fire go to every MVC. If there's no spills, no injuries, no entrapment, that sort of situation, then fire often is not dispatched. So it's kind of a combination of reasons. And I know that one day in April there was multiple incidents in Elgin County in the 401. So there was definitely, it was tough for everyone to keep everything straight that day.
Well, it's cell phones have changed the world in so many different ways, and emergency responses are one of them, that people get panicky and call for a response when it's not necessary, but I guess better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Through the chair, I'm just wondering if you're still having issues with during the day for calls for answering, and I'm sure everybody's having those issues around. Do we have any ideas or anything we can do to alleviate that? I know it's difficult.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Daytime continues to be a struggle. On a positive note, we've just in the last few weeks, a couple of our new recruits that have just started responding. So they've been training obviously for several months, but they do have daytime availability. So that's going to help us out a little bit. It continues to be a challenge for everyone. We can always rely on Dunwich if necessary, but we do plan to recruit again, likely this summer, start our recruitment for, again, with an emphasis on daytime availability. But it does continue to be a challenge for sure. We, as council is likely aware, for quite a while now, the department has typically for daytime calls, the primary station is dispatched, and then usually one apparatus, one truck from the other station, just to kind of help get a few extra firefighters to scene. So that is definitely of assistance throughout the day.
Just going to the opposite side of the recruitment, do we routinely, as we receive retirements, do we do exit interviews of those individuals that are leaving?
No, and that's a great question. It's something that's come up as in the past. It's something that I don't think typically is done in the size of a fire department, but quite honestly, I would agree that it's something that we probably should be doing. Now, there is sometimes maybe some some informal conversation or communication around that, but in regards to a formal exit interview, no, that's not something that we're doing right now.
Magda, is that something that I'm a firm believer in exit interviews, because it does give you a window of your soul of you know, what is actually happening, and maybe gives you data as to where you need to go. And so you know, what's council's thoughts on it? Is that something that Magda and Jeff should have a discussion about to see what the merits are of having a exit program?
It is something we've talked about in the past as being a good practice, and it is additional work, but I think it can be very valuable if you can convince the employee to sit down for it. That doesn't always, you know, appeal to an employee that's leaving, but I think it could be helpful.
And I think somebody, you know, it's, is there any merit to put thought into it to the person doing that exit interview? You know, it's a standardized exit interview, either sent out or conducted by someone that isn't involved, either the chief or the CAO or the mayor, or somebody that you know, it's a third party that is just asking these questions, and maybe people would feel more comfortable in discussing those, maybe sometimes a little bit of sensitive information, or, you know, maybe they got an axe to grind, or they got, but I think it's information that, you know, take the name of, well, it's hard to do that because it's an exit interview, but, you know, take it for what it's worth. And, you know, maybe we need to change some things and policies. Yes, Teresa.
Through the chair, I think having it third party, you glean a lot of information that you may not otherwise, as you're saying. And also, if someone's been, say, I don't know, a captain or whatever for how many years, the information they have to give back to us is so valuable. So much we can learn from that, so much we can change or look at, and just a different perspective that we may not have had or just been blind to. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Third party exit interviews, at the very least, an exit survey or something at the very least, but an interview would be something to strive for.
So is council's concurrence, can we leave that in Magda and Jeff's hands to brainstorming and come up with something that might work for us?
Certainly we can, I can sit down with Jeff and we can explore options and report that information back to council in June, I think.
Okay. Anything else on the monthly report that council has questions on? Trucks are all on the road. Everything's humming along that way.
Yes, and I did update Magda a couple weeks ago, I guess, but the new compressor that was approved recently, it was still 10 weeks out. That was maybe 2 weeks ago, so it is ordered, but like we anticipated, it's going to be summertime likely before it does arrive. But yeah, nothing else to note at this point.
All right, resolution, please, Madam Clerk.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Jeff MacArthur, Fire Chief, April monthly fire report for information purposes.
Over and seconder, Latham and Cameron, all in favor? And that is carried.
So sir, now we're on Heather James's monthly report on planning.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Are you
Thank you.
around a little longer, or are we?
We're done with Jeff.
We're done with Jeff. All right, sir. You probably got some corn to plant.
Well, hopefully soon. Likewise. Thanks.
See ya. Okay, Heather, you're back.
Thank you. You have my April monthly planning report. I will note this is a new thing for me. I have never done a monthly activity report for planning. Do you have any questions on my report? One thing I was concerned of, is this too much information for council, or is this the level of detail and information that council's looking for?
Just keep in mind that there is a level of privacy under the Planning Act for consultations that she has to follow.
Well, that being said, that yes, I understand that, and certainly you wouldn't want to name specific people or developers, but I guess from at least from my perspective, you are asked quite frequently, you know, what's happening, what's going on, and myself to be able to say, well, we have so many inquiries, we have just as you know, there's much information that you can share with us legally. I think the better off that we all are around the table, because you probably know a whole lot. And unfortunately, the people sitting around this table, in most cases, know very little. And unfortunately, when we're dealing with the people that put their trust in us, I hate saying the words, I don't know. That doesn't give people a very good comfort level to be able to do that. So, you know, if you can share as much information as you can with us, I think it'd be appreciated.
Okay.
So.
To the chair, Heather, thank you for the information. I like the detail that you have given me. Will be useful in the future with residents. Based on what I'm seeing, it looks like we're getting lots of inquiries. How are you managing with this amount of workload?
I'll be honest, it's been quite stressful. Self-hold is also, as you're aware, my time is split 50-50 between yourselves and the Township of Self-hold. The Township of Self-hold has also been quite busy. It's been very, very hectic, and I'll be honest, a little challenging trying to keep up with the volume of inquiries, phone calls, emails, meetings, applications coming in.
Are you keeping up currently?
Yes. However, I will note that I consistently do work longer than the work week period in terms of hours, just to keep up.
Okay, thank you.
But those are billable hours, are they not?
No, I am not billing the municipality for it.
Funny.
Well, it's kind of coincidental that we're having this discussion at the same time that on the agenda is a proposal for, what do you call it? Removing yourself from work, and the terminology is disconnecting from work. So, you know, I do think that, you know, it doesn't help our citizens to have to wait a period of time to be responded to in terms of planning. I do think you know, I appreciate seeing your list of activities, and it is helpful. I have to remind myself that, you know, when I get somebody that corners me on the street and says, oh, here we got a Tim Hortons coming, and I haven't got a clue about it, I have to accept that, because I'm not supposed to know about that until it comes to a public meeting. But it does help to be able to see that you've had, you know, these various meetings to be able to say to people, planning is really busy. So that being said, maybe we need to plan for some support here for our planner.
That's like the proverbial unicorn.
I know.
If I may just add, it is traditionally, I've been a planner for over 15 years. I can honestly say in my experience, regardless of whatever municipality, spring and summer are always the busiest times of the year. There is always high volumes of phone calls, emails, inquiries, meetings. It seems to be the warmer weather seems to get people kind of out of hibernation, wanting to plan about their properties, develop, etc. I will say, though, that it's hard for me to say because I've just come back from maternity leave. I know in speaking with Brian Pierce, I know he also, for the past year while I was away, it was busy. It was extremely busy during the spring and summer months. He also found it still to be fairly busy and steady through the fall and winter months. So I'm kind of hoping that this was just kind of, you know, me coming back, the transition, springtime. I'm happy to see this level of activity and growth. I'm a little concerned if it stays for the long term.
Well, I think it's a sad situation that when an employee, the only way they can get time off is go on maternity leave.
That happens everywhere, though.
That's what I mean. I see it happening a lot, so I think.
Except maybe farming.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, you're in communication with the administration around here on,
Yes.
you know, if not a daily basis, you're very, very close to it. So, I think the message we want to leave with you is, you know, we're aware of how hard you're working and how many things are coming your way, and that we're dealing with a public that is, they all live in a New York minute. They want it done yesterday, and unfortunately, that's just not the case. So we can do what we can do, and I think it's the more information that we have, we got the ability to say to the public that the poor woman is right up to her neck in planning applications, and be patient. Yes, Bob.
I just wondered if there was any advantage to having some sort of an administrative assistant.
She does. Does have admin support.
Okay. Could that be bumped up in any way, or?
It's always available to Heather.
Yeah, unfortunately, Heather's inquiries are very specific to which only Heather can deal with. I think she gets as much help as she can.
In terms of, yes, if I may say, I am utilizing administrative support in both of the municipalities in terms of getting notices out, mail out, scanning documents, that kind of thing. Jana is correct. The type of work I do is very specific. The knowledge and the education you need to be able to answer the inquiries is very specific. The only thing that could possibly help alleviate is if we were to explore, for instance, maybe hiring a student in the summertime that's, you know, studying planning in college and university. That could be like an intake in terms of, like, say, like a planning technician that could kind of help with, you know, taking some of these, you know, inquiries kind of off my plate and be able to answer the zoning questions and things like that, and severance inquiries. That could definitely help, you know, for our spring and summer, you know, during peak times. If this was to escalate further, it may be something we need to look at in terms of maybe a shared position for like a planning technician that is shared between both municipalities. Again, to help try to alleviate some of this, you know, inquiries from the public, someone who has the education, either probably generally through college, for instance, in a planning program that would be able to provide that level of service. That's just some thoughts.
And maybe that's something that you and Lisa can have discussions on going forward, because, you know, all of you have read planning documents, and you know, it's a language of its own. So, okay, well, we have heard you, and like I say, if you have some discussions and see how Lisa is moving along with it, maybe that will move things forward a little easier for everyone. Any other questions on that report? Okay.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Heather James, planner, regarding monthly planning report for information purposes.
Moved by Talia, seconded by Cameron, all in favor, and that is carried.
So we're on the interim control bylaw, Heather.
Okay, thank you.
Go
Does
ahead, Heather.
council, okay, I'm not gonna go over and read my report. Council has it. Is there any questions on this proposed interim control bylaw?
I've already pointed it. Yeah, your hand went up and mine pointed right at you.
I have no questions. Thank you for this report. I strongly recommend this direction. Yeah, if there's no more discussion.
Well, and you know, to be honest with you, as we are working with our consultants to put our official plan in, that will take into consideration a lot of things about distances and whatnot, that when it comes to windmills, I think that we do need a little bit of breathing room to be able to do that. And that's all that this bylaw. It's not saying that we're throwing windmills out the window. It's just a matter that if we are going to do them, we want to do them right.
I should add that since our last meeting, I have heard of other farmers who've been approached. So it's a very timely decision, this.
Any specific questions that you have in Heather's wording of this interim control bylaw? Okay, seeing none, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Oh, let me read. I need to read the recommendation, sir.
Okay.
And then we can
Sure.
have Bonnie as mover. The West Sutton Council hereby receives a report from Heather James, planner, regarding the proposed interim control bylaw to prohibit new large-scale renewable energy facilities in the municipality of West Elgin for up to 1 year. And that West Elgin Council approve the interim control bylaw in accordance with the draft bylaw attached to this report, and further that West Elgin Council consider the bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the May 12th, 2022 council agenda.
Okay, we have a mover and we have a seconder. All in favor?
I need a seconder. Sorry, who was the seconder?
Angela.
Angela. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Heather. That was another quick work that you did pull that together fairly quickly for us, but you know, we'll try to keep additional work off your desk, knowing how busy you are. So thank you for that.
We're on Lighthouse now.
Lighthouse.
Heather.
Okay, thank you. Council have any questions? Essentially, staff are just kind of looking for kind of support from council on the position that staff have given Lighthouse on this municipal addressing concern.
Yes, through the chair, I guess I'm thinking in terms of future development in this decision. For example, the waterfront development could be in the same situation, and I'm sure there must be ways around this, that other people have subdivisions that have different street names, that have addresses on those street names. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the reasoning behind denying this. Like right now, 911 wouldn't be able to respond to them, but how do other people get subdivisions built with street names in it?
Okay. If I may just,
Yes, go ahead.
speak, okay. So subdivisions have municipal roads running through them. So as long as there's a municipal roadway and the subdivision, or sorry, the lots are fronting on it, then it has a municipal road name. Where we get into these issues such as this is in condominiums, for instance. I did talk with the city of St. Thomas and their planners, and this is the approach that they use. They do not give the developer or the condominium development its private name. They don't give it a private name address. The address is assigned out at the street. Now, Lee and I also did look into other municipalities. Lee knew of one one development, for instance, in Chatham, Kent. And Chatham, Kent did choose, it's a private development with private roads, and Chatham, Kent did choose to assign the municipal addressing to the private roadway. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just that we have to ensure that whichever approach we use, it's the correct approach, if we're consistent with it, and that we use it for other developments moving forward. In terms of being able to find the road through 911, the 911 system will be able to find the properties based on the information that we submit to them.
Okay, well, I think that my perspective is what is the easiest way to have property identification? Is it something that we're doing for ourselves, or are we doing it for the general public and their ability to find a place where they want to go? I understand the concept of the whole thing, and I understand why Chatham Kent is doing it their way. What is the downside of us having each one of those properties and giving them a separate 911 designation? They're paying for the sign, they're paying for the service. And that's another question that I've got, being that they're really, is it the condominium board that's going to buy one sign out at the end of the road and that's going to cover everybody, or do each one of them have to? It's really something that I've never had any experience with, and I'm really kind of confused as to how best to move forward.
So, Mr. Mayor, this basically, the issue was raised the way their address, once the subdivision is developed and people have their own homes, how their address is going to be displayed on an envelope on their water bill. And in my opinion, it is very confusing. when the address says 21879 Grain Line Road, Unit 5, Bluff Road. I mean, so which road is it? Is it Gray Line or is it Bluff Road? I think, you know,
Thank you for that.
basically that's what we're trying.
Through the chair, for someone who does deliveries in her other business, MapQuest would go, what, when I punch that in? I often deliver to condos that have unit numbers, and MapQuest picks it up very easy for me as long as I have a single street name. And I've delivered across many places across southwestern Ontario that are, they're individually owned condos within a private like this, but it's a single road name with a 911 address, and then it's unit 20, unit 40.
Mm-hmm.
And one subdivision I went to, they were listed as units and they're standalone homes. So it's just, it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so having experience with that, do you agree with the recommendation that they've got moving forward, or do you feel that it should be a standalone 911?
It should be like where it says unit, you know, 118979 Gray Line, and then they should have individual units. And that makes more sense for mailing as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Bye.
Yeah, so I guess I'm trying to think about how can we best support a development and be supportive of a developer, which, you know, we're trying to do in order to, you know, get extra tax base and so on. So I don't understand why, if we put in that it's Unit 5 Bluff Road or whatever we've already approved, how is that any different from using the current Gray Line address? Like if we put it into the 911 system, then it will be there correctly, won't it?
No, not really, because the address is Gray Line, and anything outside of Gray Line behind is private condominium subdivisions. It's a private property. So there should be one 911 address, regardless of whether they have one unit or 100 of them.
Mm-hmm. So conversely, if it was waterfront being a subdivision, that's a different thing.
If
We would
yes.
own the streets or whatever, or we would.
Yes,
right. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I see.
I do.
Kind of got my head around this a little bit now. If you take a look at this condo with number of properties here along the way down the road. If you look at it, that all those condos are an apartment building. You have one 911 address out in front of the apartment building that gets you to the apartment building. And then on top of that, you go to apartment number, what you call it, or whatever number is. That makes sense?
Mhm.
So when you take a look at the 21879 Gray Line, unit number 5.
Go to number 5.
You got number 5, you understand where you're going to go, and exactly.
If I may.
Yes, Bob, go ahead.
Heather.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add too that I also did consult with Steve Gibson, who's also helped us with this lighthouse development. And I've included his comments. His comments are just for guidance purposes only. He did also make another comment that I didn't include in here because he said it to me verbally and I can share it with council. He also made the comment that Lighthouse never contemplated this naming of the private roadways anywhere through kind of their application process as well. So this was never brought up through their application process or submitted through their documents, as well as in talking with Lee and in talking with Mr. Gibson, it's everyone's recollection that this roadway is in fact a private roadway and it was never constructed to a municipal road standard. And there could be the potential, Mr. Gibson said this to me, there could be the potential that it could be, if we were to allow them to name, give addressing to say Unit 10 Bluffs Road be the address as opposed to connecting it to Gray Line, there could be a bit of an assumption that possibly this Bluffs Road could become a municipal road in time. I haven't received any requests, but there is that concern and that perception. And that this laneway has never been constructed to a municipal road standard, so it's not built to our requirements. We want to ensure we keep this as a private laneway as much as possible.
We will not do any maintenance on this road. We won't plow the snow. We won't
No.
do anything, so.
So just as a final comment, obviously we were we were wrong to name that road in the first place. So I don't know whether there's a process by which we can apologize for that error. And I would be agreeable to otherwise leaving it at Gray Line address. I know apologies are hard, but obviously we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Now that we realize.
The request came way too soon before council received more information on it. And that's why like the decision was made too soon.
And I think lesson learned here that any future condo developments know what we can and cannot do this time, so it won't happen again.
It's also my recommendation that we, as a municipality, develop a policy. Because we do not currently have a policy, and a policy would provide greater guidance on these type of developments. And we're going to see more of these type of developments in the future in our municipality.
So would you like to provide staff direction to issue a letter apologizing for naming of the road in error or some sort of word like that? And as it is a private driveway, we were in error in suggesting we had the right to name it. Yeah. And at this point, we are supporting, council will be supporting staff that they will be units of Gray Line. And we will be, and identify that we will be developing a policy for such road naming in future. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's good. Okay, you got enough? Is that all a big resolution or just staff direction?
We can provide this as staff direction because it's not, you're not making a legal decision. You're supporting staff.
Oh, everybody good with that?
So basically you're receiving, but I do need a mover and seconder to receive her report.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Leatham, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? That is carried.
Okay. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
So we're now on the Manager of Operation and Community Services monthly report. He's not here, but if you have questions, I'm sure Magda can answer them.
I'm not sure who would I direct it to, but the older home on Pioneer, right before you hit Kerr on the right-hand side that now has the orange snow fence, that home was coming down?
It's a bylaw enforcement issue.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was under this or what was going on.
Getting chickens.
I hope not.
Be quiet.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Lee's reports? I think the biggest question that I'm getting, I don't know if you're getting them, Richard, when's the brine program going to start?
It's,
there's
yeah. They were, there was some delays because of weather and filling potholes.
Well, that's, and you know, they've done, and that's the reason that we're in the situation that we're in, is because they've been doing a very good job grading the roads. And so we went from pothole complaints to grading the roads, taking care of the potholes. Now we have dust.
Just overnight.
It just happened overnight. Yes.
I'm worried though, some of them killed the trees and a couple spots, the trees are.
Yeah, no, it's something else. Okay, you want a resolution to
Receive his report.
and file?
Yep.
Okay, mover and seconder, please, Tellier and Cameron, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, so now we're on Magda and I's report regarding the right to disconnect policy. If you would like to do it, go for it. Yep.
So back in December, Ontario government passed Bill 27, the Working for Workers Act 2021, and that Act amends the Ontario Employment Standard Act of 2000 to require certain employers to develop a written disconnecting from work policy by June 2nd of 2022. So that deadline is fast approaching us, and we are currently struggling to determine what exactly disconnecting from work policy should say. And we're hoping that there will be more guidance documentation available for us. We have been able to develop basic policy. Jenna did some research, but basically, so that policy only affects employers with 25 or more employees as of January 1st. So those are the employers that have to implement disconnecting from work policy. There are, when I did some research on it, there are some suggestions to consider. So, so number one, we have to determine the content of the policy. So another option that we have to consider is that we are not required to create a new right for employees to disconnect from work. And Employment Standard Act does not specify the information that an employer must include in its policy, as long as, so there's Employment Standard Act defines disconnecting from work as not engaging in work-related communications, including emails, telephone calls, video calls, or the sending or reviewing of other messages. So I mean,
It's basic.
It is
Everyone's
very
struggling.
basic, and I think at this point in our municipality, nobody's being forced to work. And when the emails are being sent after hours, there is no expectation of responding to that email right away. Even I understand even from council, we do get emails from council. There are certain times they're in the middle of the night, but none of you expect us to respond to you, within 15 minutes because you're waiting for an answer.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, so this is just
So-
clarifying it, right? That expectation, right? That's what
So however, there are some considerations that have to be taken. And we have, Jenna and myself, we have reviewed, we have bank time policy as well as vacation policy. Our vacation policy, no changes are required to be made as complies with exactly with right to disconnect. Our vacation policy encourages all employees to take vacation during the current fiscal year. And there is no options to bank that vacation time or carry it forward to the following year. However, if you look at our banked time policy,
under hours of work.
under hours of work, there is vacation time also included in that verbiage. So I think, when the final report is presented to council, we will be probably changing the verbiage of that bank type policy and removing vacation time from bank time. And my suggestion is to basically clean up the year, clean up the hours at the end of the year. So whoever is left with banked hours, and those are typically our hourly employees, my suggestion would be to pay them at the end of the year and start year clean.
It helps reinforce the idea that we want our staff to use the time allotted. We're not trying to overwork our staff, which is what the point of this policy is.
Find it very interesting that we're looking at this right to disconnect policy. And I'm just sitting here looking around at or thinking about a lot of the employees that are staff people that I'm affiliated with. Yes, you can put the right to disconnect policy in, but unfortunately, a lot of these people do not have the ability to do it. they do their work, whether it's now or in the middle of the night or whatever, they don't have the personal ability to say, oh, I'm not gonna do that till tomorrow. No, they can't leave it alone. And got so many of those excellent staff that are so committed to their job. That whether we have a policy that thick, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. And,
Which is when Magda and I were reviewing there's 3 versions kind of floating around. One is dead on basic. It's about 6 lines. This one's kind of the medium one. Another one lays out some more, a little stronger words on taking staff. We're like, okay, this is the best version of it. It covers that. We're encouraging you to do it, which is our goal. We want our staff to take their vacation. We're telling you, we don't expect you to answer those emails.
yeah, and I think the bottom line of the policy in general is the fact that we don't expect you to work 24 hours a day.
And that's all it is. It's reinforcing the idea because there are some of us, and I'm gonna say that I know there's at least 2 of us in this room who, sometimes you need to be reminded that we don't have to work 24 hours a day, but
You can't leave it alone. It's like an addiction.
it does. It's so easy because it's right at our fingertips. Like I'm dealing with Facebook comments during the council meetings, right? So it just is what it is, right? So
Yeah, and this one up here, not only, I think the policy should be that you don't need to be doing 2 jobs at the same time.
good luck with that. Sir.
Both of you are doing that right now.
Good luck with that.
You're filling in little things that you know you gotta do, so, yeah, no, it's, we're very fortunate both here and certainly at the county, the dedicated staff that we've got working for us.
So this is, and this has become more of an issue in many workplaces just because of the technology that people have at their fingertips. And so it is partly reinforcing through the employer that, that isn't necessary for you to continue to look at your phone and respond to emails and so on. But at the same time, it is a personal choice. So are you comfortable with the draft that we have seen here, or do you have some other things that you need to add to it?
I am, but when I did my research, there is also points mentioned when employees are away, which is a very good point. So when employees taking time off is away from office, I think the rest of staff need to know that they are taking that time off. So it is important that we, remember to set out of office.
That's all in that. It is written.
It is written, okay. So we're gonna try to enforce that rule. So their phones are updated, their voicemail messages. So residents, staff are aware that people are taking time off, and it's not that they're ignoring them, but they're so there's no expectation.
That's our support to them.
See, that's in the part where it says logging off for the day, setting your online status to away or out of office, do not disturb offline when working, use of out of office notifications on email and voicemail.
So I'm not sure if that's should be under policy or procedures. We're gonna determine that.
Yeah, we'll have to send out note. We'll just remind staff to use it. And yeah, the other part that we made sure was in here too. And you and I talked about it, and I don't know if I showed you that it definitely was in there when I did it, was just because we provide phones to employees, it does not imply that employee is required to make themselves available at work at all times.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this a work in progress, or do you want us to?
We have to review it again in January, so it's required by this legislation every January, we have to review it, so.
But we have to pass it by the 2nd of June.
Yeah, so that's.
June, so I am quite comfortable with the draft that we have. And then if the revisions need to be made, then
we can
bring it
Read
to
the
council.
resolution.
So the West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Janet Nethercott, Clerk, and Magda Badura, CIO Treasurer, regarding the right to disconnect policy, and West Elgin Council hereby adopts the right to disconnect policy as presented.
Mover and seconded, moved by Rowe and seconded by Cameron, all in favor?
So just along with that, like Magda said, we will probably be bringing back the hours of work policy. We've got to obviously update staff and stuff before we get to that. That's not as urgent as unfortunately this one was.
Okay. IG?
Yes.
Yes.
Want to read the resolution? and
Oh,
then
yes.
we can-
So this is a request to waive fees for the Tai Chi Group for the rental of Miller Park Pavilion for a total of $175 plus applicable taxes.
No, they were not included in grant application, but I just saw another request for waiving fees has been submitted. With this request, the person that initiated this request did not indicate whether it's a free event for residents of West Elgin or for the community, or is it a paid exercise class? So, but regardless what it is, basically our rental rate is $5 an hour. If there is 5 people exercising under that pavilion, it's $1 for an exercise class. What can you buy these days for $1? You can't even buy a gum, honestly. And, you know, due to great generosity of Optimist Club, we have this pavilion for our use. However, you know, it did not cost our municipality a lot of money to construct the pavilion. However, the ongoing maintenance and down the road replacement, you know, will be brought to council's attention, and there is a cost associated with it. You know, just like I mentioned to you in previous council meeting, I realized that you know, we have been waiving a lot of fees, and we have to start charging people. So I think now is that time to start charging those nominal amounts. So, you know, people are aware that, you know, we're going to be in a situation down the road that where the replacement for the pavilion is required, and we're not going to have funds for it. Again, this was just, I'm talking to you from the financial point of view.
Yeah, it sounded like the treasurer, didn't it?
But it's certainly council's decision of what they want to do. I also included quick estimate, cost estimate, what it cost us to basically maintain that facility and make sure that whoever is renting it, you know, it's safe for use, and there is no glass, because as you know, there is a lot of vandalism going on. So before a rental happens, before the event happens, we have to send our municipal staff to basically inspect and check if the area is safe for use. So basically it's an hour. They have to drop everything, regardless whether they're cutting grass in Rodney. Before an event like this happens, they have to drop everything, attend the facility and inspect it.
Bonnie, you had your hand up first. What's your pleasures?
Yeah, here's my thoughts. This is a, it's open to the public. It's a recreational activity that's offered. If we were putting it on as staff, there would be a cost associated with it. Yes, there might be a fee charged. So that's, you know, that side of it. When I looked at this list of expenses, I just found that to be very facetious. Like, why would you charge a cost of the truck? I mean, the truck is paid for, the staff drives it every day anyways. Do you not go and check the bathrooms every morning anyway and look for damage, whether it's being used or not? Because people go there when, you know, the kids are at the park and so on. So you've got to do a regular process of maintenance. So, you know, to put all of those costs into the cost of this particular Tai Chi group seemed a bit treasury to me. And I guess, I mean, I would be agreeable to subsidizing them to a certain extent. I just think we encourage people to have physical activity in our community, and this is a way to encourage a physical activity class. So I'm not ready to charge them the full price, I guess.
I have a question. If this same group moved 25 feet into the yard at the same program,
They need the hydro.
well, they do and they don't.
Well, they use music to,
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I have battery.
and it gets
powered-
pretty hot without having,
Yeah, but if we moved them 25 feet, would there be a charge?
No, no.
That's what I mean. And so it seems that all that they're really asking for is the roof over their head. So.
In reality, is Magda was just providing the
Yeah,
information that
do
you
the
guys
read-
asked, right?
No, that's.
Every time we have a waiver of fees, you would ask, directed that staff provide a cost of how much it costs.
And that's what a good treasurer does. Yes.
So Magda, thank you for the information. That was very informative to me. I wasn't aware. I get why you did include the truck cost because regardless, we have to break down the usage of those trucks somewhere. But at the same time, I understand where Councillor Rowe is coming from and we are trying to promote residents using our facilities. So I would be in favor of waiving the fees, but I do come back to the same thing we've discussed many times at this table is we are gonna have to, future councils are gonna have to stop waiving all the fees. So I don't know how to educate these service clubs that they need to be prepared to start charging nominal fees to cover stuff. We have to split the difference because vandalism is obvious up there. I'm at the park a lot right now for soccer and you can see it and there needs to be some kind of trust set up to prevent that for future vandalism and stop that kind of stuff. So does that have to be on the entire tax base or do we build it slowly with the rental fees? Something to consider.
I think one of the issues that we're gonna find with the truck, because if you take a look at the location, I would think that anybody that's going to check out the park, probably, the truck is already there. They're already there.
it's $5 an hour, the full rental fee that we
Yes.
charge. Okay.
Or 25 for the entire day.
Yeah, we just this year put in an hourly fee, didn't we?
Yes.
So that they,
Through the chair. If the hourly fee is just $5 and that's what we charge them, that takes care of the electric when they plug their radio in for whatever they do.
But they're saying that.
They're saying they don't want to pay it. No. But I mean, if we don't charge them anything else, surely $5 isn't overreaching, is it?
That's what they're asking us to waive.
Well,
Now,
$175 covers is the total for all of the days they requested.
yeah, and there's quite a lot of them.
oh, wow.
So they are paying insurance.
Now, I think the big question that Magna said, is this a for-profit venture? Okay, well,
I mean, it
that's,
wasn't, I know that personally, but
okay, Rob.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes, Teresa.
Through the chair, so I'm on the recreation committee. We're always encouraging people to get out there, do things. Could we look at seeing and going back to them if they could use what grant money's left there and we could do a partial and meet in the middle? That's just my ideas on that. So even half of that amount, and if they choose to do a token, if someone comes along or the end of the year, someone wants to give something to them, maybe that would cover their costs, but if we have any of that money left, maybe they weren't aware of it, maybe, I think it's Ms. Hulls didn't know. That we could look at that part of it as well. So that's what I was thinking, because we're always encouraging people to get out, get moving, use our trails. You know, we've got these facilities, the park, so I don't want to discourage anyone from having an activity.
And I think a lot of activities, and just having recently gone to an activity that Emily put on that was very, very excellent hour and a half of Norma and my time to sit through, and it was free. And there was 2 of us there. Even for free, it's difficult to get people out. So Bonnie, are you making a motion that we waive the fees?
I mean, this may be an opportunity. We've waived a lot of fees, pandemic and so forth, and might be an opportunity to begin to increase the fees. So I would be willing to move that we subsidize the fees at 50%.
They are responsible for their own insurance.
Long time discussing 87.
I know, but it is it's on principle.
It's on
because
principle, yeah.
Anybody that comes next, you know, we're gonna possibly stick with that fraction, so.
Cool.
So
All right.
the West Elgin Council hereby approve the reduced fee waiver for the tri-cheek for the rental of Miller Park Pavilion. I can't talk today. I apologize. Total of $87.50 plus applicable tax. Waiving $87.50, and they will pay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, committee and board reports, council reports on committees. Yes, go ahead.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. As the Phragmites activity connect with council, I guess I was invited to meet with Aqua and the Phragmites Control Center, which is the nonprofit that's been working on Eagle Pond. Talk about the plans for this year, and last year the work didn't quite, it was less than what the budgeted amount was. This year the work will consist of spraying what's remaining, and there is some that wasn't done because of nesting and so forth last year. So they will begin in August to spray all, stacking it on the side of the pond. At the end of this year, it should look. So they seem to be moving forward. They are asking volunteers to sort of be the eyes. So anytime volunteers are walking or whatever, there may be some regrowth in these piles that they are going to just lay it on top of them. That's kind of cane cutting. So that's the plan there. We should have let that department continue to cut that area around there so that. But it's amazing. Like last year, we hired someone to cut the whole. Oh, sorry. We had someone hired to, I think it was Steve Fodor, to cut off all of the growth around there so that the control center could get into the pond, and that's really grown back with basically vegetation that's scruff vegetation. So anyway, it will be a continual trying to keep that trail open, but that was that meeting.
Okay, any questions for Bonnie on that? For those who travel around, I think that since Elgin County has got formerly aggressive on Phragmites, I see a tremendous difference in our county roads. Certainly going into St. Thomas down between Shedden and Tolleville, they've really come a long way since getting it under control. Any other reports from?
We do have a recommendation from the West Elgin Community Center Board of Management, their last meeting. We approved that West Elgin hereby approves the recommendation of the board, that public skating sponsorship rate be equal to non-prime ice rental rate as set out in the West Elgin fees and charges, regardless of the rental time. We did approve it last year, but for a specific one-time rental, so this will just cover it for future.
Certainly the participation in this ice time has been really, really good, so. Okay, you've all heard that resolution, we have over a second report, moved by Rowe and seconded by Cameron, all in favor, that is carried. Accounts,
That the mayor and treasurer are hereby authorized to sign payment voucher number 5 amounting to $234,611.96 and settlement of general road, water, and arena accounts, including electronic fund transfers number 5107 to 5154, online payments numbered 910 to 917, check numbers 25920 to 25932, and payroll for pay period 9.
okay, you all heard it. Moved by Tellier, seconded by Leatham. Question is?
Good morning.
All right, all in favor? That's carried. Next, down to correspondence, Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, Forestry, and it sounds like a law firm. Proposed regulation changes under the Agri Resources Act. Any comments on that? Okay, next item up, International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, May 17th. Tress?
I would like to support this if we could. I don't know about our flag policy and that, but being May 17th is Tuesday, maybe we could look at next year. Also looking at that next year to support it. It's a little short time frame, obviously.
There is a resolution attached to the request. Do you want to pass that resolution and issue it as a proclamation, like issue it for this year?
Through the chair, I just think it's really important to support people with any diversity or anything in our community, or small community especially. So
Would you like me to read that?
if anyone else feels the same way.
I think we've all had the opportunity to read it.
Okay.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Fine.
Just comment. Yeah, I support that as well. And it's surprising the number of comments that they received in Dutton Dunwich when they flew the pride flag. You know, you have no idea of the impact it can mean to people who are gay or trans or whatever, to see that their community welcomes them. So I think it's a great thing. If we have I don't know whether if we have a pride flag right now.
We
I know
don't,
that.
we have to order one.
Okay, so
This
they.
here says if we contact them, they'll get us one for $15.
Yeah. I know that you did participate in the health center pride flag raising a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah,
I would.
and I had to get Avery to educate me on why, what we were doing here.
And what, and how to say it.
Yeah, well, she was very informative, so, but I get requests all the time. And I mean, there is a day, today's National Nurses Day.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a day every day.
And I mean, there's a day every day, and we could wear the cable out on the flagpole, putting it up and down. This is something that haven't been paying attention to society. I think there's a growing trend towards more supporting. Welcome to the community. So, do we vote on that?
No.
No. Okay, all in favor of that? That is carried.
Just to add, as part of the youth task team, we have discussions around the round table with the youth that are on that team, on that committee. And I've expressed before, it's not that people of certain generations don't want to know. We don't know what to ask. We don't know. It's not something we grew up with. Everyone was very quiet. And it's just great that we can have these discussions out in the open and everything's something we can talk about. So I don't think the youth realize how close things were when we grew up, how we couldn't talk about anything. So it's nice to open their eyes that we didn't know, we couldn't talk about it. When we didn't know, can't ask questions about it.
Well, I can tell you from experience that there would be a day and that would never even have made the agenda. Correct. Correct. Okay, next item. Oh,
Okay, so Jana mentioned the flag. Is council interested flying Like.
Yeah.
And at which location? Where would you like?
Well, our,
'Cause there's-
that's our community flag
Okay,
down there.
okay.
I will order two. We can have them
Yep.
before then.
Okay, next item up, Rodney Quanis, request to close Federal Road. I think we had a little roundtable discussion on that, that will, we're not gonna shut the road down for every Tuesday.
So I have a recommendation ready
All right,
if you.
Cool, go ahead.
The West Elgin Council hereby approves the temporary closure of Furnival Road from Harper Street to Victoria Street in Rodney on Saturday, November 19th, 2022, between the hours of 2 PM and 10 PM for the purposes of the Rodney Night Market. And that West Elgin Council hereby approves the temporary closure of Furnival Road from Harper Street to Victoria Street in Rodney on August 30th from 4 PM to 8:30 PM for the purposes of the final Toonie Tuesday event.
By Cameron, seconded by Leatham, all in favor? Carried. I don't see the notice of meeting for Middlesex County.
No, I did realize I did update it afterwards. Apparently, I forgot to attach it. I'm sorry. It was just their notice of their official plan open house.
I did have an opportunity to go down and have a look at the Bothwell Bridge. Wow, did they ever take it apart? They're just redoing the deck. It was all taken off, right down to the bare bones. And, big job. Okay, no action on public meeting, just notice, Thompson of South Bruce, new tax rebate program. It does, I guess, I don't know, bigger fish than us have to make these decisions. Receive and file.
Noted.
The Township of Iron Fire support for humanitarian effort in Ukraine. I did bring that to Elgin County, and I guess we, the best that we could do at Elgin County was saying, we feel for you, and we put a Ukrainian flag up on the pole, and I guess I could send them a picture saying any financial contribution at all, which it is what it is. Council inquiries and announcement. Anybody have a notice of motion? Seeing none, statements, inquiries by councilors. Seeing none, matters of urgency.
Lunch.
Seeing none.
We have Stephen Gibson patiently waiting for 1 o'clock, so.
Ooh.
Good one. Ouch.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
We're almost there.
We're almost there.
All
So
right.
at bylaws, so
Yep.
bylaw 2022-26, amend fire chief agreement for coordinator position. Do we want any discussion before then? Before I address this bylaw, do we want any discussion on this, Magda? The fire coordinator position.
Just the information that you gave me was a good reminder, so I didn't remember that we had discussed this in the past.
Yes, and I apologize. I should have submitted report. I just,
Yep, that's no problem.
You didn't take it home with you?
no. But there is, just like I mentioned in my email, there's no financial implications. And that initiative was included in our 2022 budget, operating budget of the fire department.
So that bylaw 2022-26 being a bylaw to approve an addendum to the fire chief shared services agreement with the Township of Southwold to include the services of a shared fire services coordinator position, be read for a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and second. Moved by Talia, seconded by Ethan. All in favor? Carried. Again, with that job description. Do we have a job description for the fire chief?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes.
When you take a look at a job description for the fire chief and take a look at job for the so-called coordinator, how many of those things overlap?
Now they do. So I think we're gonna have to sit down with Southwold and review fire chief's job description. I'm pretty sure he will be still involved in admin duties for the time being until his admin staff is comfortable. But I will report that back to council.
Well, one of the concerns that I have now, there's an admit in Southwold. We have a couple of offices here in West Elgin with West Elgin's fire chief. Now that all that work is going to be done out of Southwold,
She'll be in our office.
it's almost to the, she will be?
Well,
She's coming Friday.
Yeah, well.
yeah, she's coming on
Yeah.
Friday. However, she will have, when she's on West Elgin time, she will have access to basically at this time and age, you can work from anywhere. So whether she chooses to work from West Elgin's office or Southwold Fire Hall, I'm not sure. That will be determined probably on the nature of her work and, you know.
To the chair, so. But
Yeah, well, I'll shut up.
Oh, yeah.
through the chair, just to clarify then, I have concerns with confidential West Elgin information leaving West Elgin. If the person isn't working here. So that's my concern is, you know, if they're not working here, because there's a certain amount of that position that is actual in-person paperwork, how is that going to be done?
So when it comes to confidentiality, anything that basically any accidents reporting, all that information is very confidential. And it's protected. So the employee is required to sign confidentiality agreement. As far as firefighters, is counselor talking about firefighters' personal information?
No, what you just said about, because it lists the incident and the person's name and like that's obviously very private information.
Right.
But then again, you do raise a good point about firefighter HR information, I guess, is another thing that you've just brought up.
So personnel information will be dealt by the fire chief or myself. Admin assistant will not have access to our firefighters' personnel files. They're stored in my office and they're locked. And now we're switching into a Laserfish. So all that information will be protected with certain people having accreditation. There is also, when it comes to fire department, there's also ARIS agreement that has to be signed with MTO. So basically MTO will not release the information to anybody unless the agreement is signed with that particular person. So there is the information is being protected. I cannot guarantee you that, you know, that there won't be any disclosure of information, but we have to trust that the person that is doing their job is well aware of confidentiality.
And the programs they're using are all cloud-based. So
Yes.
it won't matter. Yeah, exactly. But that's unfortunately, the programs in general are cloud-based.
Oh, just a note. We're talking performance, so. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Sure, let's get through these bylaws.
So
We can
bylaw
talk about that
2022-27
ourselves.
provisionally adopts the Fleming Drain Report. So that bylaw 2022-27 being a bylaw to provide for the reconstruction of the Fleming Drain in the municipality of West Elgin be read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted.
Moved and seconded, moved by Rowe, seconded by Talia, all in favor? Okay.
So bylaw 2022-28 provisionally adopt the Axford Drain Report. The bylaw 2022-28 being a bylaw to provide for the reconstruction of the Axford drain assessment schedules in the municipality of West Elgin be read a first, second, and time and be provisionally adopted.
Seconder, Latham. Rowe, all in favor? Carried.
So bylaw 2022-29, the bylaw to approve the fire dispatch agreement. The bylaw 2022-29 being a bylaw to authorize the fire dispatch services agreement. Read a first, second, and third and final time.
Moved by Cameron, seconded by Latham, all in favor? Carried.
Bylaw 2022-30, the interim control bylaw. The bylaw 2022-30 being a bylaw to establish an area of interim control pursuant to section 38 of the Planning Act. Be read second and third and final time.
Seconder, moved by Rowe, and seconded by Tellier, all in favor? It's carried.
So bylaw 2022-31, the right to disconnect policy. The bylaw 2022-31 being a bylaw to adopt the policy HR 4.8, the right to disconnect policy, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Tellier and seconded by Rowe, all in favor? That is carried.
Bylaw 2022-32, rezone the northwest corner of Graham and Monroe Street. The bylaw 2022-32 being a bylaw to amend the municipality of West Elgin comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2015-36 for the property known as part of lots 17 and 18, concession 8, being parts 3, 6, 7, and 9, and registered plan 11R 9329, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Cameron, seconded by Latham, all in favor, and that is carried.
Okay, so that council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby proceeds into closed session at 12:53 p.m. under sections 239, 2B and F to consider matters pertaining to personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including a local or municipal board employee, and advice that is subject to client solicitor privilege.
Seconder, Tellier and Cameron, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, so I've got to close this meeting down and then we can take a break if you want.
Is he